Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item, we're going to say the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. And as we're doing that, Dr. Whaley will let you say, both of you do such a fine job always. And then I would like to introduce our three newly elected officials who will be starting their terms in January of 2026. So we'll go ahead and begin with the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to be together today, particularly on the eve of our Veterans Day and our Veterans Day celebrations. We just ask you to bless all of our veterans, our citizens that are serving in the armed forces, our first responders, our law enforcement. We thank you for this great nation that provides our opportunities, a state that gives us our guidance and its support. We thank you for this beautiful mountain county and this beautiful mountain city that are handiworks of your beautiful hand. We ask you to bless the newly elected leaders as they take their position, and our very excellent and competent staff. Help them and guide them through these turbulent times. We're so grateful for the opportunity to live here, grateful for the things that you do for us, make us worthy for all of them. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight's meeting really involves everything to do with finance. And so we're going to be talking tonight about our 2023 audit, the status of the 2024 audit, our millage rate, and also we will be discussing the budget for the upcoming council. That is one reason I did invite them here tonight, our three newly elected members. Of course, you all know we have staggered terms. We will have remaining council members, actually all three to the left of me, Bill Bivens, Christy Kay, and Jack Taylor. So we have three over here, and then we have three newly elected. As most of you know, I will not be returning, and Andy Rhodes, who has been a lifelong resident of Blue Ridge, he is replacing me. And Andy, would you like to say a couple of words? You're more than welcome to come up to the podium. And then we will allow the other two the opportunity.
All right, y'all. Thank you for, I don't need my, thank y'all for
You do for the video.
There we go. All right, thank y'all so much for having me. I'm humbled. After the election, we put in a lot of hard work. I feel great. I'm excited to get here. I'm excited to take office and see what we can do for the city. I'm just happy to be part of the team, so thank y'all.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And, you know, we had two great candidates for mayor, and that was, I'm sure, a hard decision for many people to make. But we wish you all the luck in the world, and anything that I can do to assist you in your transition, you know that I will be available anytime. So you just call me anytime. So the next position is post 2. And would you like to come up and talk? This is another, Bubba's been here forever. He's lived many different places, oversaw a lot of, just many companies. And he is back in Blue Ridge, and he's been here for a long time, works at the school system, and I'm telling you all about him right now. But he's a wonderful person that I personally am very excited to have on this council, because I will guarantee you one thing. If there is a topic to be discussed, he is going to research it, and then he's going to research it even more, and then he's going to research it even more, so before he votes. So I'm looking forward to working with you in any transition period, Bubba, and I'd like for you to tell everyone about yourself now, other than what I've already told.
Well, I really don't have a lot to say, but I thank you for that kind introduction. I'm really looking forward to this. My wife, Ann, and I, we both teach at the high school here. She's an RN teaching healthcare, and I'm an engineer, been teaching engineering, but I manage all of our work release kids here, and I see all sides of what's going on in Blue Ridge, and I'm really passionate about getting in here and moving things forward. Let's go forward together and make this an awesome place. I choose to live here. I could go anywhere I wanted to go right now to live, but I choose to come here, and I've got kids at school that go, "What are you doing here?" Because they all can't wait to get the heck out of here. Well, I've been to 60 countries in all 50 states, and I choose here because it's a pretty awesome place to be. So I'm really looking forward to being here and moving the city of Blue Ridge forward. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So, post 4 is currently being held by Dr. Whaley, and Dr. Whaley ran, and it was a very, very tight race. And I know the citizens of this city had a tough choice, and there was also a third candidate. And you guys, I want to say, I've seen such love and compassion between the two of you because you have embraced her to take your position and not shunned her away. And many people could have done that, and I respect you so highly for that. And Jacqueline is also, I'm sure most of you know her family. She's going to get up and tell a bit about herself. I'm not going to do like I did with Bubba, but if you will, get up, tell a little bit about yourself. And
Yeah, so I'm from the Kuiper family, along 5th generation from Blue Ridge, proud to be from Blue Ridge, glad to have left and gotten an education to come back here. And I know I've got some big shoes to fill, and also just very, very appreciative for the 3 people that are stepping out of office to allow the 3 of us to step in, and looking forward to being a part of not just a team but a family, because I think we're all on the same team here. We're on Team Blue Ridge, working together and doing the will of the people. That's why I ran. Looking forward to the next 4 years of serving with God's grace and working with everyone in this room. So thank you very much.
thank you. And again, that's why I wanted you guys to be here, because the upcoming budget that we're going to discuss tonight, it's going to be your budget. And we want to make sure that you guys are open with the rest of the remaining council to incorporate different projects, different things into it that you see fit. So we'll discuss that more once we get to that portion of the meeting. But, I think it's important also to know where we are financially, where we are with our audits, with everything going on, because that's going to be a major part, of your positions. So at this time, we will begin. The first item is discussion items is the fiscal year 2023 audit. We have our auditor, who Tracy Jo Bracken. She and I were just discussing this. We've worked together for about 10 years, and she's been our city auditor. She does a wonderful job, knows our history. Tonight, what she is going to do right now, she's going to begin by going over the results of the 23 audit, and then we'll discuss a bit more the other details with 24. Okay, Tacy Jo, we're going to give you, and if you do you need to adjust that in any way?
I might, so that they can hear me on the live stream. Let me make
Get
sure.
there right up next to her.
Yeah.
She speaks softly, we've heard her before.
Yeah.
As a former cheer coach, I don't think I've ever been told I speak softly. Okay, can you hear me? Does that sound better?
You can see, you can raise that thing, too.
Like that is incredibly dangerous.
Can somebody instruct Rob how to fix the mic?
If you just want to take it out and hold it, whatever.
People are gonna wanna.
I promise to speak loudly.
People
Okay,
are
about
gonna
that.
want- They're gonna wanna hear you on the video.
Yes,
like a
for
buzz.
sure, yeah.
I think we should be able to. Just
I will
yeah.
be sure to speak loudly. And if
think-
I'm not, please interrupt me if I'm not.
Okay.
We want to make sure everybody hears.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, we're ready.
We're ready. Okay. Well, it is good to see everybody again. It's been a little bit since I've been here to meet with you. And Rhonda said, I'm Tacy Jo Bracken. I'm with Welch Walker and Associates. We're a CPA firm that is in East LJ and in Jasper, and have been doing the City of Blue Ridge's audit since 2015. So seen a lot, and been in the trenches with you for quite some time. So I'm thankful to be here, and let's dive in. I like to always start by reminding you, even though I have presented to you guys before, what my role of an auditor really is, okay? Because a lot of times there's a misconception as to what I actually do. People think auditor, they instantly think IRS, they think forensic, they think all the things I am not. So I just want to give you a quick update. So my role as your auditor is to take your financial data and to take your financial statements and to dig deep, to look at the individual transactions and the transactions as a whole class and determine whether I think that there are any mistakes, whether those are intentional or unintentional, to make sure that when we issue a set of financial statements that you can stand behind them and say, you know what, these numbers are as accurate as I know to make them. We don't just dig through your transactions, we actually confirm a lot of those balances with third parties. Example, we reach out to the tax commissioner of Fannin County to make sure property taxes are really what they're supposed to be. It's really what you billed, it's really what you collected. Same with SPLOST, local option sales tax, all of those revenues. Same with your debt. We talk to GFA, we talk to those people to make sure you really owe what you say you owe, and you really paid what you said you paid. So my job is to simply take your financial information, put it in the form that you're required to submit it to the state in, but then give my stamp of approval as to whether or not those numbers are as materially correct as I know to make them, okay? So we also, as part of that process, look at your processes, the how and the why behind what you do financially, how you get that information on your financial statements, and if there's interruptions as to how it got there, and if so, what could we have done to prevent that? And did we have something in place to prevent that? And if not, what should we do, or why did we not prevent it? That's where our findings come from. It comes from your processes and where I see gaps in those, or where I see that those processes didn't work for us, and where we need to tweak them, and the things we found that were breakdowns in those controls. You'll hear us use the word internal control. So that's what our findings relate to. So I do want to remind you this is 2023 information. I know you know that, so some of this feels a little dated, but I do think it's a jumping off point from where we were in 23 and things that we're seeing happen in 24 and 25, and this will help you and the new council make some decisions on 2026, okay? Let me give you a 10,000-foot aerial view of things you'll see in these financials that you don't want to look at numbers. Let me tell you what kind of happened. Unusual things that happened. One is that 2023 is the year we dissolved the Downtown Development Authority, as a reminder, and when that happened in 2023, the council voted to dissolve it, and we moved all of the assets from that DDA checking account and the things that they had constructed, and we put it in the general fund. There's not a problem with that, but that is something you voted to do, and so now the books reflect that. It was about $500,000 in cash that moved from their account to the city's general operating account, along with some assets they had built for the downtown parking lot and the downtown restrooms, okay? That stands out on your financial statements as a special item is the word that it's used. It's actually segregated in a separate area. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. It's about $500,000, so you will know what that is. It's separated because it's not part of your normal operations. So when someone looks at your operating income, we don't want them to think that Blue Ridge had $500,000 more in their normal operations, because they didn't. We had a special item, so that's why we segregate that. The GASB standards changed slightly for the year that we're presenting, and this is a very small part of your financial statements, but I need to make sure you know that now we have to recognize when you enter into subscription agreements. The really quick answer to that is, the explanation of that is that when you subscribe to a major software, then you have the right to use that software for your contract period, and we have to recognize that as an asset. And a liability for the amount that you will owe for that contract period that you're obligated to use that software. So that is something that GASB passed, that's the Government Accounting Standards Board, and that's something new that you'll see in your financial statements. A subscription asset is what it's called, and a subscription liability. That's new for 23. The other thing you will see is near that special item that I mentioned on your financial statements, and that is that we had some improvements that the county and the Chamber of Commerce made to your pool that you have leased to them. You're all well aware of that. But what we found when we were working on the 2023 contributions from both the Chamber and the county is that we were not aware that the chamber had made improvements to the pool in 2022. We had only picked up the county's portion of that. So the chamber reported that to us, and we made a change to your financial statements so that we could add about $200,000 to the value of your asset. So you will see that as a prior period adjustment or a correction of an error. And that is where we are simply putting the value of that asset to what it really should be and adding $200,000. Those are the unusual things you'll see in 2023, okay? So let me just quickly, we'll flip through some of these pages together. The very first letterhead page that you see, it's about 3 pages in, is our independent auditor's report. So this report is actually where we tell you that we have looked at your financial statements, and if we found any glaring errors that we could not find a solution to, then we would have to give you an opinion that was modified. We did not find anything like that. We gave you what we call a clean report or an unmodified report, okay? So that's the best opinion that we can give you on 2023. That means when you look at these financial statements, they're as correct materially as we know to make them, that we've confirmed them and we've essentially put our stamp of approval, for lack of a better way to say it, on the financial statements. What I do want to mention to you is on the second page of this letter, you'll notice that it is not signed. So you have a draft of your financial statements for the audit. So Chuck and I are still dotting our I's and crossing our T's to get our documentation in order to wrap up the audit. So what I usually need to get is a letter that simply states that there are no contingent liabilities out there that would affect my financial statements. So there's not some pending lawsuit, for instance, where you're going to have to pay damages and I would have to book that as a liability. So Chuck and I have looked at this together and we have had a discussion, and he is of the opinion that there's no surprises out there, that if we have something pending, that it's been turned over to the insurance company is going to defend you vigorously. And if something has to be paid, that insurance will cover it. So that is, we are of that understanding, so we don't find that these will change, but we're dotting our I's, crossing our T. And so by next week, we will have that documentation together and we'll sign a report and we'll submit it. But what you have in your hands won't change. So I just cannot give you a signed copy until I dot those last few I's.
Could you excuse me just a second? Could you let us know where you're at?
The very first letterhead page, it's just a couple of pages into the packet.
Not into this package.
It's not in this one. Excuse me? Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
We don't have it.
You literally don't have it. Well,
Yeah, we're sitting here trying to
we'll get you
figure out
copies.
what's what.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. It's our basic opinion report. We'll make sure we get you copies. I thought that was in
Okay,
there.
and then you're looking at, we're looking at this, right?
Yes, the audit report.
Okay.
Here, and let me give you this one too. This is the other one. Thank you, Jennifer.
Just so you guys know, this information is literally being compiled the day we're building this, so we apologize for disorganization.
Okay, yeah. All right, very good. So we'll get you copies of those. Okay, so now let's turn to page 7. So in 2023, we made a lot of entries, we made a lot of changes, but we were pleased to report that the city, the general fund, and all of the governmental funds ended the year with a $1.2 million increase in fund balance. That's, of course, including the $494,000 that I've already mentioned to you that was the Downtown Development Authority. So that number is probably closer to $750,000, and I'm at the bottom of page 7 in case you're following along. So the other thing that's notable is with all of the entries, once everything was done, on page 9, we have a policy at the City of Blue Ridge that we consider a budget overage to be more than 10%. So if a department level exceeds budget by 10%, we consider that material, and that's what we report. So I'm happy to report to you that our normal operating budgets were complied with by the departments, and we didn't have any material budget overages within those departments for 2023. Now, we are reporting to the state that at the bottom you'll see debt service for principal and interest. Those went over 10% on the budget, but that's simply because it would have been absorbed up in the departments that the debt related to, public safety and public works. If you look at those line items, you'll see that they had plenty of space in their budget. Those are the departments that use that debt. So overall, the city was not over budget for 2023, and that's what our report states further in the note. Okay. Let's move on to water department, unless you have any questions about general fund. So on page 12, this is our statement of revenues and expenses for the water fund. So you will see at the bottom of page 12 that the water fund essentially broke even in 2023 with a $77,000 net revenue over expenses. That is a little unusual for the water fund of the city of Blue Ridge. In recent history, it's been a little bit more we've been a little more in the black than that. So that caused us to look a little bit further just overall. If you look at page 13, this statement is more important than it gets credit in normal circles. This is a cash flow statement, and the reason this is important is it takes all of your financial information and it puts it in a cash in, cash out compiled report. So the top shows you everything that you pulled in from operating. At the end of the day, in 2023, you generated $1.2 million in the water and sewer fund from regular operations. But when you started paying for debt payments and capital and those types of things, you actually spent $1.2 million as well. So you had a little bit of a shortage there. Thankfully, interest rates were high in 2023. So with the $48,000 of interest revenue, you had a net increase of cash of $45,000. So I bring that to your attention simply because as part of our audit procedures, we look into 24 and 25 because I have to look at subsequent events up to the date that I'm delivering the audit, even though I'm just auditing 2023. So when I look at that, we've had a considerable amount of debt that we have entered into agreements with GFA. So we have about $7.9 million of unused debt that was already available to us at the end of 2023. So this was for 2 large projects that the city had already executed agreements and started pulling loan draws. Well, in 2024, we added about $2 million to that. So now not all of that has been drawn down even to date, but probably about $5 million has. So my thought process was that the challenge, and even for the new council coming in, is just to make sure that we are able to service that debt. When you look at 2023 with the current debt barely breaking even with interest as our cushion, as interest rates decline, we just want to make sure that our rates are acceptable and to the point where they can fund it and that you're able to continue with a viable water fund. Again, I have only audited 2023. I feel like I need to repeat that. So these are just this is my big picture looking forward at the things that I've noticed as I'm going through the audit. Okay. Are there any questions on the financials? I'm going through this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, if you are simple, we had $48,000 of profit in water, which is generally something that we have a lot more than that in. We haven't added a whole bunch of new subdivisions to increase our income in 24 or 25. And if we have to service debt and do those other things, then I anticipate that you would be able to just give a rough guesstimation of what our revenue shortfall would be in water alone in 24, 25, going forward to 26. If all other things stayed the same, the number of customers and the rates do not change substantially, then we're going to have a shortfall each year, correct?
I believe you would start to have a shortfall when this debt entered repayment. My understanding is at the end of 2024, these projects were still outstanding. I believe that most of them are still outstanding in 2025. So I can't really speak to what the numbers in 24 and 25 look at as, you know, as far as shortfalls, but I don't believe you had the debt repayment entering the picture until either recently or in the near future. And at that point,
So there was been no debt service on that $5 million worth of debt in the period since it was accrued.
other than interest that's accruing, they are paying
Now,
interest.
how much interest are they paying?
It's a low interest rate. It ranges between 1% and 4%.
Okay, so
So,
that's,
but
we're
the-
not gonna go broke, on the interest rate.
Thankfully, these are GFA notes that have very low interest. That's a very true statement. However, when you add that much debt to a repayment, when you had a $45,000 cushion, 45,000 doesn't absorb
It
much
doesn't work
debt
out.
service. Exactly, exactly. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? That was a good question. Okay, let's talk about findings. As I mentioned earlier, our job is to look at the how you do business and why, and if it's working, or if we're finding anything that's not quite up to speed. So there is a letter, and I hope that you now have one. So let me tell you, let me tell you what the letter says, okay? We have 4 different types of findings as auditors that we give. The highest level of a comment would be what I call a material weakness. When I look at your financials and when I look at how you do business, if you don't really have a system in place to catch something, or you're not following it to the point where you didn't catch it.
Is that the letter?
Oh, no, go ahead, go ahead. Thank you. Okay, so this would be the second letter, and at the top it talks about internal controls. So what this letter is telling you is that I have different levels of findings. So material weaknesses is one of the more serious ones. It means that we had a major breakdown in our systems and we didn't catch things. So these are serious enough that I give them the highest rating of, we really need to focus on these things.
Was that the only question that I asked you the last time you stood here and gave a presentation was about internal controls? Was it not?
It was.
And I asked, did we have adequate in-place internal controls for the reasons that we outlined in that discussion? So when we last talked, and you were standing here, we did have in place appropriate internal controls was the answer to my question. Is that correct?
You had controls designed, and we did have 2 findings that year, if you remember, the segregation of duties and the material adjustments to the financial statements in 2022, but they were significant deficiencies, which is what I'm going to explain next.
Okay.
At the time, you did have, the controls were designed and documented and in place, but we had still had findings.
I understand.
Right, that's right, though.
Remember, that's the only discussion that we had in the previous meeting.
I agree with that. So a material weakness is the highest level. The next is a significant deficiency. So in that, you have some controls in place, you followed them for the most part, but we still found some instances where we had some problems and those controls didn't work. So that's my next level. The other level is non-compliance with state law. Well, that is what it sounds like. There is a state law related to a financial matter, and the city of Blue Ridge was in non-compliance with that law. The 4th one is what we call management comments. These are more informal. These are things that I have a conversation with staff and say, hey, why don't you think about doing this way? You might look at this and see what you think. Don't forget you have to do this. They're not material enough to put in a report and bring to your attention. They don't cause that much dollar-wise. Sometimes it's just my recommendations to make things better. So those don't make it in the report, but they're also not material enough that I think it's worth your attention. So let's go through your findings. For 2023, we have 2 material weaknesses, okay? So the first one is the segregation of duties. There were several months where we didn't have a finance director in 2023, even though we did have a city administrator, and the staff was overlapping in duties to a very large extent to keep the city going, to be expected. But because of that, we had a breakdown in the controls and how we were segregating who does what. We try to logically separate the duties so that there's a check and balance in the finance office. The person who's generating checks for vendors is not going to be the person that's approving invoices, because we need some checks and balances there. And the check signer is going to be a different person. The person that reconciles the bank account, who's getting the big overview, doesn't need to be the person who's approving invoices. You need a second set of eyes there. That's just a general example, but that's what segregation of duties is. And when we were missing staff, we had a breakdown in those controls. So we saw, when we looked at who's doing what and how and why, that we had a lot of overlapping to a large extent, and that's why it's a material weakness for 2023. The second material weakness is material adjustments of the general ledger. So because of the state of the underlying transactions, we had a lot of entries, not made just by us, but also by staff that was working on the books. But at the end of the year, we had to make a material amount of adjustments to get the financial statements in the form that they are now in, that you're reviewing them. When we have to do that, we have to report to you that we have made a large amount of entries, because they can't be my financials or I can't audit them. So I won't be independent. So we make sure we tell you, these are all the things in your financial statements that we adjusted. And when it's a very large dollar amount for a lot of different areas, that becomes a material weakness. We do know from time to time someone forgets to adjust something, or we find a contribution of an asset that no one knew about. Little things, those things happen, and at that point it wouldn't be a material weakness. It would probably be a significant deficiency. So we just had a large number of entries, and that's why it's a material weakness for 2023. Please stop me at any point.
Yeah,
How many
I do
entries?
have a question. Go ahead.
How many entries are we talking?
I believe it was in the 30s, 40s. I have it with me. I can give you an exact number.
It's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I just want to understand, we're talking about 2023, correct?
correct.
You're just talking about things, the staff and all. Am I-
Angie, you may need to speak into your mic.
Yeah, am I, 2023, did we not have someone, didn't we have,
You did
an
until the
administrator
end.
in
you-
23?
You had an administrator, correct. A finance director through mid-year, but a administrator, yes.
Angie, remember, since I was elected mayor, we have gone through 6 finance
Yeah,
people.
I'm just not, I
So-
didn't know we had employee issues in 2023. I thought that was after the administrator left. So
It wasn't really an employee issue, it was just, we didn't have anyone in that position, like she said. We, from the time there was a lapse between hiring and when he resigned, so.
Yeah, but we're talking about 23, he resigned
That
in
was
24.
This
that
is in
was-
the finance
yeah.
office. So there was a vacancy in the office in the very first
not
week in
talking-
August, I
Okay, so
believe.
this is just strictly,
This is finance department, not,
well, the findings, I thought you were talking about, that, I guess I'm just totally misunderstanding.
Well, it's okay. No, I'm happy to answer the question.
Yeah, I'll ask you later, yeah, because I'm totally misunderstanding, but anyway, we'll continue on. Thank you.
Okay. So, but as a reminder, this is in the finance office. So so let's go to the significant deficiencies. Again, this is kind of the level underneath material weaknesses. So the first significant deficiency is the reconciliation of cash and the general ledger throughout the end of the year. Bank reconciliations just need to be done monthly. And though that financial activity needs to be reconciled inside the general ledger that's being reported to you, that's being reported to department heads, you just simply it has to be complete information, it has to include everything, and it needs to be reconciled. So we catch errors that way, we detect fraud that way, and you make decisions that way. So and department heads make decisions. So we need to make sure that that information is correct and that it's getting to you timely and that it's accurate when it gets to you. So if you look on page 48, I explain a little bit more about what happened and give you some examples. So at the top, under cause, I do give the staff that was trying really hard to keep the city going credit and say, you know what, vendor checks were being paid and cash was still being collected. Water bills were being collected, property taxes were being collected. They were still doing what they could do. So I want to make sure I give them credit for hopping in and doing what they could do. But that being said, when it came to the actual financial information that was in the general ledger, a lot of information just simply wasn't recorded until late 2023 and early 2024. So, and it was more the unusual items that hit a bank account or that either draft in or out that were more susceptible to being missed because it didn't come through the door. It wasn't a vendor check. It wasn't a cash collected by a clerk. So, for example, this is kind of an unusual one, but the city received a federal grant check from FEMA in October of 2023. But that check never hit your bank account until March of 2024. Now, it was about $12,300, but that's just an example that I don't know where the check was or if it just got laid on somebody's desk because they didn't know what it was. It was an unusual item. It's not a normal receipt. We rarely get federal grants like that, but that's just an example. And this is why the segregation of duties and that's why it's more of a material weakness, if that helps you understand. But we just have to reconcile stuff on a regular basis. We had a lot of journal entries made recording that late 2023 activity, but it wasn't put in your system until 2024. So if you're making decisions in late 2023 on information you're looking at, that information wasn't there yet. It was dated there eventually, but posted in 2024.
Is that the only one you found?
The only
Unusual item.
that I just use that as an example. There were several things not posted that kind of come in and out of the bank statements, but that one stood out because I was looking for that grant. We've been waiting on it for a couple of years.
And it'd been here for 6 months.
It was here approximately 6 months before it was deposited into the bank.
Basically then, the data that is required in late 2023 to come up with a reasonably accurate budget for 2024 did not exist.
I would say that's a fair statement.
Then that would have been even magnified for 2024 for the 2025 budget.
I can't speak to 2024 because I
Understand.
haven't seen it,
I'm
but I
making
think
a
that's a fair
prediction.
statement for
Okay, fine.
2023.
Thought it was probably fair.
Okay. So it is our recommendation that we simply reconcile the inflows and outflows of all the bank accounts on a monthly basis. It needs to be done timely, and it needs to be done routinely and accurately. So there's really not much more to recommend there other than to please do so. So,
I see here employee, in the middle of this 48, employee accrued leave.
yes, we're headed there next.
Okay, all right, sorry, I thought we okay.
Yep, that's the next finding. The 2023-004 is employee accrued leave. So what we found is that we were not tracking the accrued vacation and sick time off of the payroll module and not reconciling it to the payroll software. And the software does now, we know, have checks and balances in place that will actually prompt you not to pay an employee if they don't have the available vacation and sick time. Well, what we found as we rolled down the end of 2023 looking at balances of vacation and sick is that we had an employee who had a negative balance, and that piqued our interest. So we started looking through 2023 and found that there were some instances where an employee was paid for vacation and sick time before that leave was earned. Now, as we roll down to the end of 2023, at the end, we had one employee. There was not a large number of hours, but it's, as I report, it's simply about the breakdown in the system. So we had software that was not being utilized to prompt us not to do so, and there was no reconciliation off of the books, for lack of a better word. So what we recommend is that we get that portal and that payroll software fixed so that it will trigger us and give us a warning if the person simply doesn't have the leave yet, so that they're not paid in error. And that quarterly, when you're reconciling payroll reports anyway, that's kind of part of the finance director's job, that accrued leave and sick is also reconciled. Make sure people got the right number of hours, make sure they've actually taken it, and that their check stubs are reflecting the amount of hours that they actually have available to take. Okay, any questions on those before we move to noncompliance with state law?
So basically, checks were coming in that weren't being deposited, and when they were deposited, some of them were deposited, or a lot of them were deposited in the wrong account. Is that what I'm reading here?
Are you talking about the FEMA?
I'm talking about the city deposited $59,049 of a special ops and sale tax.
We're headed there next.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
you're
jumped the gun.
fine.
Forgive me.
No, you're good. Okay, so the first finding under instances of noncompliance with state law is the special local option sales tax. So it is state law, and I actually quote the law there for you, that the proceeds from a special local option sales tax are kept in a separate physical account, and that they're not commingled with any of the general monies of the city. And that keeps them completely restricted so that their use is hopefully utilized for the right purpose. So in 2023, the city deposited $59,049 of special local option sales tax collections into the general operating account. They didn't catch it for a few months. My guess is because when it was recorded in the system, it was recorded in the correct checking account. Well, months later, when the bank recs are finally prepared, they see that that money is not in fact in the SPLOST account, that it's in the general operating account. The money was transferred. Now, I was not here, but that's what the transactions appear, that's what appears to have happened. So, that being said, any commingling of SPLOST and general monies for any length of time is a instance of noncompliance with state law. So yes, to answer your question, we had one FEMA check that was here for 6 months before it was deposited that we are aware of, and we had one SPLOST check that was deposited into the wrong checking account accidentally, it appears.
Only one?
We only found one in 2023.
Okay.
Okay, so the next finding is 2023-006. On the same subject of SPLOST, it is required for your voters that you publish a schedule of your SPLOST referendums and the projects contained in those referendums. It has to be in a non-technical form so that an average reader can understand them. To simply say, here's our project, here's our budget, here's what we spent in prior years, here's what we spent this year, here's what we have left. It's very basic. A lot of people simply use our audit schedule in the back of our audit, and that passes muster. But we didn't find any evidence that that had been published 180 days after 2023. Therefore, it is an instance of non-compliance as well. Your next finding at the bottom of page 49 relates to your hotel motel tax. Let me give you a quick overview of your hotel motel tax just as a refresher. You have 3 different components to hotel motel tax. One component is what we call TCT, trade shows, can't remember, conventions and tourism, I believe is what it stands for. Thank you. So this is the amount that you send directly to the chamber. And the city does this routinely and does it very timely. And they did again in 2023. So once a quarter, they accumulate all of their hotel motel tax collected and they send that percentage to the chamber. It's required to be spent to promote tourism. So it has to promote an event. So that's where we get our billboards and our Southern Living ads and everything that the chamber does to promote the city of Blue Ridge. There's no issue there. There's another component that's called tourism product development. That component can be used on bricks and mortar or for operating expenses for facilities that are open to tourists that enhance their visit here, and that we use not only to build things for them to use to come see, but to operate those things. That's one pot. The other pot is unrestricted. and the city can move that money to general fund or wherever it deems necessary and use it just like they would their property tax or anything else, okay? So the portion I'm talking about is the tourism product development. State law requires us to budget specifically on how we're gonna utilize that money in the year we collect it and to spend it in the year we collect it. Sometimes that's a tall order because you're talking about bricks and mortar, but there's also operating costs in that. That being said, we have an accumulating balance carrying forward. These are 2023 numbers, but at the end of 2023, we had $163,716, $163,716 that had not been expended. Now, I'm auditing 23, so I don't know what you've spent in 24 or 25, but I'm simply letting you know that that needs to be spent as it comes in the same year.
When you say bricks and mortar, are sidewalks and a walking trail, toilets and a walking trail, or things like that, bricks and mortar that tourists use for, that draw tourists to the area? Would that fall in the category of appropriate utilization of that money?
DCA has a really good list on their website that I can provide to you that gives you really good examples of what that contains. And a lot of times when those questions come up, I look at Chuck.
I just,
So, but what we commonly see and what the city is using that for is the downtown parking or downtown restrooms or things that you are doing to make a visitor's experience better in the city of Blue Ridge.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So I think before there was money set aside to do uplighting in the park downtown. Would that possibly be it? Do you think that the 100,000? Possibly, because that would be for downtown.
Yeah.
It was set aside.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I haven't
Yeah.
seen that in the
But that
budget.
could be used for the uplighting in the downtown park.
I'm not sure if that would be considered bricks and mortar, though.
Oh.
Like, the restroom was a project that we had intended to use
That for.
that monies of that nature on, but that will be in the next the year
In the
24,
2026.
so, yeah. in 20
Right, so
yeah.
I think that my recommendation would be to we need to figure out what those monies are now.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna be a good thing to discuss with the 2026 budget. What is our pot of money sitting there? And how can we spend it in 2026 on legitimate, appropriate projects?
The restroom.
And then as the auditor, like I say, I always look at Chuck and say, I need a legal opinion, please. So when you get to those projects, he'll be a good source for you as far as what qualifies and what doesn't.
Actually, Christy Gribble, the president of the chamber, is very knowledgeable on this. I've talked to her in length on the TPD. I know the county used theirs to do playgrounds at Horseshoe Bend, the park, the playground equipment, multiple things. And I asked her even about, could a bathroom that be go to like bathrooms downtown? She said yes, but
And that's
Uh,
one thing we had talked about,
yeah.
remember?
Yes,
That you guys,
yes,
and then you didn't.
yeah. So she
it
would
didn't
be
happen.
someone that y'all
Yeah.
could ask. That
Yeah.
even y'all, she's very knowledgeable on what it can be spent on. So
We
yeah.
do find that our chamber presidents in this area are very knowledgeable
Yes.
on the tourism money, which makes sense because it's such a big part of their budgets. So they get audited as well. So, just so you do know that, when they're spending their tourism money, we get a copy of their agreed-upon procedures from their auditors to make sure they're spending your money correctly. So, they usually are a wealth of information.
That one question, though, the city does not give that TPD money to the chamber, do they?
They do not.
I think the county does, but we talked about that before, so that could even be something that, just to make sure it gets where it needs to go, and maybe working with them a little more on that and letting them have it.
And just to clarify, the only portion of hotel motel tax that you're required to give what they call a DMO, which is a designated marketing organization, which is a chamber, is one of those types. The only portion you're required to give them is that TCT portion to promote events.
Yes.
Which the city is doing, and they're doing that timely. So our recommendation is, if you're already reconciling the TCT portion quarterly, we should pull the TPD source into that reconciliation as well. Let's reconcile it quarterly, and then the council can make decisions on how they want to spend that money, but it might help us utilize those funds in a timely manner. Okay, last finding in the middle of page 50 is related to the SPLOST again. So this is a reminder to you as you are constructing major projects. If you are using SPLOST monies in any capacity, whether you're funding 20% of the project or 100% of the project, if you're using SPLOST monies, you have to pay for the SPLOST project in its entirety out of the SPLOST fund. Again, this is how we keep from commingling SPLOST and general monies or water fund monies. But so we had a big project that was eligible for SPLOST, but instead we spent that money and budgeted that money in the general fund. And right now, at the end of 2023, there is a interfund payable, which simply means that the SPLOST fund owes the general fund $408,943. Well, that is a compliant expenditure. That's not the problem. The problem is that we should have spent the $900,000 on the project out of SPLOST fund and then moved $500,000 from general fund into SPLOST fund. So in the future, when we're planning major SPLOST projects, we need to be sure to spend that money out of the SPLOST fund. And if we need to supplement it with hotel motel general monies, or general fund monies, then we just transfer that money over to the SPLOST, but we pay all of those costs out of the SPLOST fund. It's just one of those rules about SPLOST monies and continuing our effort to keep it separate. Are there any other questions on the audit?
Is there gonna be any kind of, penalty or anything on any of these things, these findings?
We're already experiencing some penalties. I'll be happy to talk about. Oh, that'd be great. Casey may have
Yeah.
some answers to that as well, but we're already in the penalty phase.
Okay.
And I would like to say a lot of the things that you've discussed, I know when Mandy arrived also, you know, we have gone through the lack of staff, and we do appreciate, like you said, all the staff who jumped in to help when we were without finance director. And we did not really have a good finance department in place, just to be honest. Ms. Cody has definitely helped us implement a plan so that we have certain job descriptions and different people handling it. And I know that's been one of our compliance issues over the past is, you know, people working the same. And a lot of that has been from shortage of staff. But, you know, what I would like to say is going through this 4 years, going through 6 different, you know, some interim, part-time consultants, and not really even having anyone on staff, you know, who's doing things other than accounts payable, it's been tough. And it's gotten us in a really bad predicament with being late on the audit. And I think that we have all learned a very valuable lesson in hiring qualified individuals for positions such as this, because you will end up spending more money trying to get things repaired and in order than you would have by just hiring a qualified, you know, personnel to begin with, and having the different layers within that department. So I do want to say that I feel like moving into next year, Ms. Cody's definitely helped us there, and we've got a great system in place with updated software and things of that nature. So hopefully a lot of these problems will be alleviated for the upcoming administration. So.
And
Let me ask you, go ahead, I don't want you to interrupt.
I was just going to say, and I will add to that, as someone who has been a CPA for over 27 years, most of which is in the governmental field. I've actually been a city clerk and a finance director for several years. So I would just encourage you to always have a competent governmental seasoned CPA in that seat.
My question to you is a little bit the same, and that is, it's not important how we got here, but in the prior positions I've had where we've had, obviously we talked before, I've never seen an audit that had more than one little line about some minor thing, not a list of major deficiencies like this. I would assume, since you're in governmental work, if you place this on a scale of the good cities at one end and the worst I've ever seen at the other, I think this is probably comes pretty close to the worst you've ever seen. I'm not gonna try to, but it is, to me, a severely damaging report. How do we fix it going forward? What is our fix for the new members of city council and the new mayor as we look at this 26 budget? You haven't even got 24, 25 yet, but I predict it'll be worse than this. How do we go forward from here? That's what each of them said. They want to work together to make the city better. What instructions are you going to give the person that's sitting in this seat in 8 weeks?
Well, I think that you're already on that track, and that is you've just got to redefine roles and give those job descriptions and just continue to hire competent staff that can fill these positions and do them well. So it sounds like from I've just been around City Hall a lot lately, so it sounds like from what I'm hearing, Mandy and Rob are doing their best to manage the staff and fill those slots and change the way we do business. And so it's a process. It's a long process, but it will not get better until we get through these 23, 24, and 25, and maybe 26 looks better when we talk about audits. But there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of that is just getting competent people and training them on how to do their job.
Let me ask the question of Mandy then. When is your contract up?
December 31st.
So your contract is 7 weeks long from here forward. So I guess the first order of business for the new city council is to have somebody that sits in that seat that knows what they're doing. I'm not going to be here.
I will tell you from someone on the outside looking in, the city did function well in several instances under a city administrator. I don't have an actual opinion as to that. I'm the financial auditor. But to answer your question, I do feel like the city has always functioned well under a city administrator.
You're the expert we've been paying.
And I think
and we're paying you a lot to get our ox out of the ditch.
Right,
And-
and
and
we are
do-
working hard on that.
And you have told me that you feel very confident and comfortable working with our current finance director, Lisa Hull, whom you guys hired several months ago. She's come in and really, helped take another lead role in that. So, I think we're on the right track again with qualified, competent people.
I
So,
agree.
yeah.
Well,
I
this
agree.
is a little surprising to me because I thought in 23 we did have, I thought Lisa worked for us in 23 and we had a city administrator. So I'm not really, I'm a little,
Angie, as I've said, we've been through 6 finance
right.
with
But we had
several.
an administrator in 23 and we also did have Lisa, I believe. So I'm just really not, and then
And if you look at the findings, some of them actually allude to the fact that the first half of the year, we didn't have these issues. But Lisa did leave employment with the city in the first week in August, I believe. If not, it is
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
somewhere around, yeah.
So we had several months before we hired somebody.
But
So in that time period, some damage was done as staff was doing their best.
It's amazing to
keep
me
it
how
going.
a 2-month or 3-month lapse in having someone you can get so behind that it's almost like you're having to struggle to get out of the weeds. And that's where our other staff members have stepped in. Now, and you are correct, Eric was here, but Eric, remember, is not a finance director. And you really need both positions, in my opinion. You've got to have the qualified, like he did a fabulous job, qualified city administrator, qualified finance director. Those are 2 highly important positions. And they can't keep flip-flopping. I think that's part of the issue too, because you have people coming in who worked in different cities, and I'm not naming any names, but it's different software, it's different programs, it's a totally different system. And, even though they may understand municipal finance, it's still getting used to our systems. And that could be, I don't know how the FEMA check got put placed somewhere, and that truly could be, it could have been in an envelope in someone's desk. And because we have gone through several project managers and different positions of that nature as well. So,
but it does seem like then maybe the disconnect was the administrator and the finance director needs to really work closely together and they need to know what is going on in all aspects, the administrator.
I would think definitely, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, but they are 2 very different jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the person to tell you that I'm not qualified to run your entries, your financial entries on a
the fund structure of your government, the financial structure of your government, and be aware of the ins and the outs, the liabilities, the revenues, the opportunities for both of those things, and how to structure all of those things to meet both the budget policies and financial policies and the vision of the elected body. But I don't need to be the person for both the segregation of duty issues that Tacey brought forward, but also just because I'm not trained, most administrative managers are not trained as a CPA. I should not be sitting behind that software actually entering and coding,
Right.
and making those transactions. So yes, those two positions should be working hand in glove, but they should be two different people bringing two different skill sets to the party every day.
Let me ask another forward-looking question on behalf of the people who are sitting out there right behind you. We have a separate group from you that are consultants that are in here that are plowing through the data and trying to make the appropriate entries that will give you the data you need to make an audit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do we know when their contract ends?
Yes, sir, it also ends on December 31st.
Okay, so now we've got this seat and that seat that have a sell-by date of 7 weeks. You're contracted to do the 2024 audit, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that then is going to be another piece of business you'll be doing under their direction that'll come out in the spring, we hope, or something like that. Do you already have the 2025 audit contract? Since this is 2025 as best I can tell, and it also is in arrears, are you contracted for the 2025 audit?
I am only contracted for 23 and 24. I am not contracted for 25.
Okay, so I'm just trying to make the clear to the,
And Councilman, if I may add to her response to that, technically, legally, the 25 budget ends on December 31st. We have 6 months from that date to submit the 2025 audit to the state, which means we should begin the audit preparation on January 2nd.
I understand, I understand that.
Council has passed an engagement letter for a different firm to perform the 2025 audit. I am not aware of that engagement letter being signed and sent to that firm, but it was passed by council at a significantly higher rate than you are currently paying Tacey's firm. And I would suggest that you withdraw that engagement letter and stick with Tacey and her firm moving forward, particularly given her history and the complexity.
She's got a 10-year playbook, she should stay the coach.
She does.
Yes,
I believe
100%.
I believe we've done that because I believe you left or something.
No, the reason that was done, Tacey, just because we had done an extension, and I think we realized at that point that we were getting really behind, and once some of the council had talked and wanted to try to get it rushed, and they thought that you were behind schedule, that you couldn't start. That was the only reason they even had that discussion. They did not want to change. From my understanding, they just thought that they could help expedite it if they went with this other company. And then that company said, no, we can't even start till, and we're like, well, we would not change, we would not use you then. I mean, that would not be logical for anybody. But that was the only train of thought, I believe, when the council discussed it. I mean,
Yeah, and I think it was the company that does.
yeah,
the-
because you'd missed our window, and you were working on other projects.
Fill in some gaps, if you all want
Please.
history on that, I'll be
Yeah.
happy to do that. So Tacey was engaged to begin the 23 audit when
Mhm.
I arrived in this position in late April of this year. And was scheduled to be on site to begin her field work, very soon after, I believe it was the first week of May, and I believe it was her second trip to begin her field work, which is common. That's a typical part of the audit process, is the auditors have to be on site with us for certain activities to verify certain segregation of duties and invoices, et cetera. When we coordinated, we had not met before, this is our first engagement together, so I actually met her here, in early May to meet her and to provide whatever assistance I could. She had to leave that day for the second time because the audit preparations were incomplete. So she was not, she was here and available and prepared to do the work that you all had engaged her to perform, The work, however, was not prepared and ready for her.
Right.
So she had to leave that day for the second time, and then we were not able to reschedule her return, for some time after that.
Yeah.
Because it was also during that time that we, separated from the financial consultant that had been previously
Mhm.
engaged to perform that audit preparation work. And then we engaged with JAT Consulting, which completed, they did perform the FY '23 audit preparation, immediately turned it over to Tacey and her firm. She picked it up, and that's why she's here with you today. There's not been a break in performance or deliverables since JAT was engaged, and Tacey picked it up.
No, because you have stepped in and been there every step of the way. And that discussion may have even been, it was before that too, I believe. Yeah, it was, I think it was when Michael Layler was first hired. Yep. Yeah. It was kind of it was a collage. Misinformation and bad stories, so.
Understand.
But yeah, so, I mean, I even as I spoke to you earlier tonight, behind here, I said, I am going to encourage the council to keep your services because you've done an amazing job for us over the last 10 years. So I would definitely, that's what, if I were you guys out there, the three of you, I would highly recommend keeping Tacey Joe's firm.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
So, what I see here as a problem that we need to visit as a council is, why are we having so much turnover? Why can't we retain an employee? What's the problem? We need to put qualified employees in these positions, and we need to retain these folks. So what I see with all this, and what I'm gathering as a general picture is, it was a lack of someone capable to do these things. Am I correct, Tacey?
I was gonna.
Okay, Mandy,
Here's what I will say.
I'll
Yes.
send that question to you.
Let me defend her a little bit, because she has an
She
obligation.
doesn't need to be defended.
Well, I just want you all to understand, she has a line that she cannot cross
Cross,
with her
yeah.
external
Okay.
auditor.
Yeah.
Sorry,
She
Tacey.
was
No,
not
that's
meeting
okay.
her legal obligations and her professional commitments to you as an external source. So when the questions get delicate, she's gonna dodge them because she has to. I'll answer the delicate.
Thank you. So,
Somebody will give me a bottle of water, I will answer. How about that? 'Cause I'm important. Thank you.
Can I reiterate before y'all get started, I wasn't the same page. But you said 23 about having qualified people come through, we did, and you can see, we did lose people halfway down the line. But I can promise you, what I do know now, 24, when she gets done,
walk up to the microphone, Rob.
it's 23 is bad, like you discussed, Doc. 24, where we had no one, and the qualified folks been there, it's gonna be worse. And what I didn't know, Tacey's kinda like our credit score. And where we lapsed is really, you ask about penalties. We're gonna get penalized heavily for this lack of professionalism.
So what's the problem, Rob?
Qualified people.
We're
So
not
hiring
keeping,
the
we're not,
cheapest person to
We're-
do
Well,
finance
we
isn't
was
the
just,
best.
we'd put a name in a hat, we'd hire them, or whatever.
What did you
And
say?
it's by
I'm sorry.
nutrition. I'm here by nutrition, but I've learned a lot since, because I've.
Actually, listen to what Christy just said. She
Read-
hit the
repeat
nail
what
on
you
the
said.
head,
I
Christy.
just said hiring the cheapest person to do our finances was not
And
the
sometimes
best.
not even the
Yeah.
cheapest.
Yeah.
It's not even the cheapest.
It's the most, and a lot of times
we
your
was
more
vacant.
qualified will be more expensive.
Yeah.
We
It's
were
like,
vacant.
that's what I'm getting to
We
here.
were
Yes.
vacant.
So the problem and the mistake that we made as a council and as a city was not retaining qualified people to do this job.
I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll tell it to you guys. Winning a popularity contest does not make you knowledgeable in government.
I need a
That's
yes
no
or no, Rob. Am I right? Mandy, am I
That's
right?
no disrespect. It's a moving machine. And matter of fact, when we're sitting here talking, it's still going down the road. It's 24/7. And we've got to step up. And I think Mandy and I am gonna beat her chest. I think we've done pretty good. For what we had, what she had to work with, she's done pretty well, because I'm not the best assistant.
Well, then I guess I owe the citizens of Blue Ridge an apology for not completing the task they gave me at hand.
Well, no, the council
I'm
voted on.
apologizing for me, Angie.
Okay.
If I've done something that has damaged the city, I'm sorry.
It's mistakes, and like I said, I don't want being disrespectful to anyone. A popularity contest does not make you Manager Montgomery. People's asked me about working with Mandy, and that's her trade. She's done it for 25 years. And y'all, no disrespect again, y'all don't know the government's ins and out. Y'all just want to test, sit up there, and then started voting yes, 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 and we can't do it. We can't sustain in 2025 like it was in, I started in 1995 here. Times have changed. And like I said, this ship is sailing. It's moving right along. We're sitting here talking, twiddling our thumbs, and it did for 2 years. So getting back to my point, the 23 audit was bad, but we had some people here, and they did a good job, but they left. And 24 is going to look, I can guarantee you, will look horrible.
By the end of your term, Mandy, will this boat be righted?
There's no
Okay,
magic
let-
ticket. There's not a wand.
Let me finish. So this boat won't be righted. What is your recommendation to right this boat?
No.
No, stay with me, please.
Wow.
I think we need to we need to continue to do the thing, we need to continue on the track that we are as far as what, and I'm just speaking to the audit and the financial house right now.
Okay.
Where we are, and I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, Tacey, I apologize, so Tacey, please fill in here. The 23 audit is literally hot off the press. Rob and I received these preliminary numbers Monday afternoon at about 5 o'clock. You're getting the copies because I got the full report this afternoon. Chuck still has to do his part. I mean, that's how fresh these numbers are, because remember, I was engaged with you on April the 23rd, that night, and literally started the next day. At that point, we had not reconciled a checking account bank statement for more than 18 months. We did not have a finance director on that day. The next day, or the week after, you may remember better, we lost an AP payroll clerk. So at that point, we had one person in our finance department who was new to the job and inexperienced. Great employee, but new to the job and inexperienced. So since that time, we have had all of this work to do to engage new consultants, reconcile bank statements, prepare the books. So this is really hot off of the presses for you for just this 23 set of numbers. There's no way that we will have 24 and 25 and a reliable budget for 26 prepared for you all who are gonna be in office by December 31st. I am hopeful that we will have 24 audited numbers for you, but I am in no position to guarantee that. Because to Rob's point, the 24 books are in much more disarray than the 23 books were. There was, to my understanding, no city administrator nor any finance director in position in 2024.
At all?
At all, is my understanding. And I can tell you that the financial consultant that we have engaged. I'm sorry, did I misspeak?
That's what I thought. I thought we had one for a little while.
But I will say this, and I think Tacey would support this. We were on the phone last night. It wasn't even yesterday, it was last night, with the financial consultant who was working on the audit preparations for 2024. Remember, Tacey's alluded tonight, she is your external auditor. She cannot audit her own work. So we are not equipped at the staff level to prepare the documents and the books to give to Tacey. That is why we have engaged JAT Consulting to do that. We were on the phone last night with JAT Consulting talking about where they are in the 24 preparation status to even get it to the point that Tacey can begin her work. A task that should and normally would take this set of consultants about 2 hours to complete is on average taking 14 hours to complete. And this is a highly experienced local government accountant CPA who began her career as an auditor.
Why?
Because the books are.
Like the monies they talked about. It's gotta go here, it's gotta be placed here, and it's gotta be when it was here and when it was there.
If the books exist, they are incorrect and in discord. They are in complete disarray. I'm just gonna be.
And you're saying, and that would be again from lack of qualified staff.
I think the consultant's message to us was that she spends a good amount of time undoing
Yes.
what has been done so that she can correctly bake, and that takes twice as long, so
So
I have
that's
a lot
what
of
I'm
confidence
getting
in
to.
her.
The problem and where this ship got holes in it was simply because we didn't have and we didn't retain qualified staff for those positions. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Are you learning something, folks, sitting in the audience here, the three that are coming forward? This cannot happen again.
And the consistency, the retention of qualified people, Councilman, to your point, to Rob's point, the ship is moving. As we're speaking, there are funds coming in and out of the accounts. And it's been widely reported that we have some 14 checking accounts. We're gonna talk in a minute about how many funds, F-U-N-D-S, or pots of money that you have to keep segregated and account for independently of one another, that's in addition to your cash accounts. So this is a daily onslaught of tasks. that have to
I
be
understand that.
completed.
The point I want to get to tonight, right now, this minute, is that we didn't have qualified staff in place. That's why we are where we are. Am I correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
100%.
If
Okay, so I would like to say something to that. So we're talking about 23, and the mayor and I think the administrator is the one that recommended all finance directors to this council. So, and the mayor.
Hey,
couldn't
Angie,
know-
don't start your
No, no,
stuff,
I'm
because
just
what you're
saying-
trying to do, I sat up here and tried to get a finance director hired that was $135,000. You all voted no.
We're only
He was
talking
a
about the
qualified, so do
23.
not start trying to blame this
not trying to
on
blame
us.
anything. I'm just
You
trying to
guys
say-
vote
This
on
is
this.
not, this is not
Nobody
helping
knows
anything.
what's
We have a
qualified. You
problem.
hired someone,
Let's fix the
You
problem.
didn't know they weren't qualified. You thought they were.
Go ahead, Rod.
The ship sailed.
The ship
Uh,
sailed,
what-
but
it's
the
because
mayor
of
hired someone
what
that
we're
she
doing
thought was
now.
qualified.
We're gonna do this audit.
We're
No,
talking-
I didn't always, no.
She
You-
did not know.
I
Nor did this council.
recommended.
So for somebody to say that we're hiring unqualified people is ridiculous. The mayor did not recommend somebody unqualified, nor did we approve somebody that we thought was unqualified.
The primary question was, what are lessons learned to move forward? That's
Yes,
what I-
and
That
we're
was my,
we're
that
here.
was my question.
How do we help you move forward? And my answer to that in part is to continue to hire and retain qualified, competent people in these positions to stay on top of this very high volume daily task that is a lawful, necessary requirement for the city to perform.
And I would like to say what we were talking about too. We've also set up a system in play right now where we have support staff for the finance director. That has never been. We had one person working in finance the majority of this time. They cannot handle all the tasks necessary. Mandy came in and saw the need to put, we have finance director, and we are supposed to have 2 people working with that finance director now. And you've got people reconciling the checkbooks. You've got people handling the FEMA reports. You've got people handling the things that they need to be. And that's how a proper city operates, and we are on track for that.
Well, I believe it started really from before we even come into office, having one person, Alicia, doing a lot of things.
She did everything.
Yes, and so, and even.
And she was amazing.
Even
Amazing.
Lisa
Did we
left
have a
because she
problem
had
with
too
her work?
much.
Never. She was
You
amazing.
audited Alicia's stuff, correct, Taysom?
I did audit Alicia.
Compare the two. Compare what's happening now to Alicia here and tell me how that compares. Is there any comparison at all?
Well, I think that what's being maybe misconstrued from my comments is that in 2023, you had a competent finance director in Lisa Hoyle, but there was a vacancy.
Well,
So
what
there
about
was
when
a
Alicia's here is what
vacancy.
I'm asking you. Did you have the same problem when Alicia was here doing the books?
I did not have, every city has findings.
I understand.
Was Alicia competent? She is highly competent, and she was a very good finance director for the city of Blue Ridge. Without fail, Alicia is very competent. But I just wanted to make sure that I was clear in the fact that Lisa Hoyle was your finance director in 2023, And the bulk of our finance comments are things that occurred when the office was vacant. So I wanted to be sure we weren't pitting finance
Right.
director against finance director, both very competent finance directors. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't being
And
misunderstood.
I thank you for
But
that.
there's
So
a
the problem is
vacancy that's
Lisa
a
left, so we
problem.
gotta get to the problem of why the employees are leaving and how do we retain them? Again, I'll say that. Why the employees are leaving and how do we retain them?
Well, I think it was James was hired and he wasn't really qualified like we thought.
He did, now, I think, from what Tacey Joe said, he did a good job.
I never had the privilege of auditing James, and I still have not audited James. James was here in 2024, and I have not done the 2024 audit. So I can't speak as to anything past December 31st, 2023. So Alicia and Lisa are the only two finance directors in this short history that I have audited, other than one that was here for a short period, I believe, in 2021.
So when Lisa left though, what period was we without a finance person?
I would say that would be at
before we
least
got James?
5 months. Well, I don't know the exact date that James was hired, so I'd hate to speak to that exactly, but my understanding is that the remainder of 2023, you did not have a finance director. So the staff that was here, like I said,
in.
were making sure the bills were paid and the cash was collected and the lights stayed on.
Which is one of our deficiencies, yeah. But they saved us at the time, didn't they?
Well, it sounds like though y'all got a great handle on it, so,
Mhm.
you know,
Thank you for that.
yes.
We're trying, so I wanna answer two things to get us back on track. One is, what is the status of the FY '24 appropriation, and when do we expect that? And number two is the penalty question, which, you may take the penalty question first because it was asked earlier. As council has been made aware, we have been, informally contacted by the Georgia Environmental Financing Authority, commonly referred to as GEFA, that our construction, I'm sorry, Taysom, stand in front of you, that our construction loans, for lack of a better word, for our infrastructure projects, that we're not allowed to take any draws on those loans currently. So that is one penalty that has been put in place. Now, it's very typical, in my experience and the experience of all of my colleagues, that GEFA will not allow a city or a county to take what we call new debt, commit to any new loans, if your audits are tardy being filed with the state. So we knew that we were not gonna be eligible for any new GEFA funds, but then it also applies to other funds, like what we call your LMIG funds, which are state GDOT funds that come down to pave roads and sidewalks and things of that nature, FEMA grants, GEMA grants, other things like that. We were not expecting, because in my experience and in the experience of all of my colleagues that I have called around the state, some of who have worked for longer than I have, no one has been made aware of a situation before just a few weeks ago where a city or county was told that they would not be eligible to take construction draws on ongoing projects. That has caused significant penalties to be faced, and quite the challenge for us to be facing, because we have a number of projects, most of which, probably 99% of which, are housed in the water sewer department, where we were in some stage of that project, actively designing that project, in closeout of that project, in construction of that project, or on the cusp of beginning construction of that project. Rob and I have spent hours and hours with the engineers trying to get a handle on what projects are out there, the necessity and urgency of those projects, have any of the anticipated cost of those projects, have any of them been maybe over-engineered or over-designed to meet our most immediate needs? Are there cost savings that could be garnered by maybe phasing out some of the projects, doing some deducts, some add alternates, things of that nature? We actually spent most of the day Monday in Canton at the engineer's office going through, and we have found some amendments, some revisions to some current projects that we're gonna end up recommending to you, because we have just over-committed on the construction projects. Number one, GEFA's not gonna give us any money. But then number two, we're gonna talk about your water sewer fund in just a minute. But Tacey told you in her fiscal year 23 findings that you made $72,000 in your water department. Guys, that is incredibly risky. You would not have cash flow I'm just gonna put it more candidly than she did, cause she's the nice one. You would not have cash flowed your water department had you not been receiving high interest rates on your deposits for your water fund. Your cash flow equivalent was the exact same amount of money as your interest earnings on your deposits for your water fund.
So how do we fix it?
You're going to have to get serious about some financial planning in your water department. The first step is what we're doing right now, which is evaluating those infrastructure projects that have been committed to or in some stage of being requested to be committed to. Rob and I have already pulled contractors off of sites. We have already suspended notes. We have already suspended contracts. We have already told contractors through our engineer, do not order materials, do not show up. We have not formally canceled or terminated anything that you all have approved. We don't have the authority to do that. But we have hit the pause button on literally everything that we could hit the pause button on, to try to sit back down and reevaluate that. Because with Tacey telling you that you made $72,000 on your utility in fiscal year '23, I'm gonna tell you that I fully expect her, when she returns, to tell you your '24 audit numbers, that she's going to tell you that you have exceeded your legally allowed debt ratio to cover your debt and make your payments for your GFA notes and your other obligations.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
You are taking very austere measures on the cost side.
Yes.
We're still selling our product below market value, and we need to be worrying about revenue. So have you been doing any magic work like on the revenue side, like you're doing on the costs on the outside?
That's a great
side?
question, and the answer to that is not yet. Time is not going to permit us to do any revenue work, is my expectation. But there are a number of best practices on the revenue side that I'm gonna recommend that you all look at, particularly moving into 2026. One of those is the rates, an obvious one is the rates at which you sell your water. You are obligated by your GFA notes to make sure that you have a certain debt ratio coverage in your rates. I'm going to anticipate that '24 is gonna tell us that we're not meeting that debt coverage ratio, and you're gonna be required to raise your water rates should you wish to continue to borrow money. I'm gonna say that your wholesale rates as well as your retail rates need to be reevaluated. And your retail, by retail, what I mean is your residential, commercial, your non-wholesale water customers, okay? So your wholesale and your non-wholesale customers is what I mean by that. Your inside rates, your outside rates. And look at adopting something called a cost recovery rate schedule. You have different parts of your system that pull differently on the system, and therefore they cost more. So you have one construction project right now that is costing $2 million to serve 28 houses. Is that right, 28 houses?
It was 600,000.
600,000, excuse me, for 28 houses. It's not hard math to figure out that that's not a really good deal, okay? But let's say that project is actually a necessity and is required, and you decided to move forward with that. That particular area that benefits from the work that's being done there and is the exclusive beneficiary of that work could and should pay a different rate for their service than, say, folks in other parts of the system who aren't placing that same kind of financial demand on the system. So some cost recovery rates, some wholesale, some better rate structures could be a revenue source. That's the first thing that I would look at for water. There's lots of other revenue opportunities, but the place to start for water is, number one, getting a handle on your capital improvement project, and number two, looking at your cost recovery rate structures.
One of my campaign ads that was very much criticized on social media was regarding our water losses, which were 1.5 million gallons per month at Mountaintops in January, and we lowered them to basically 500,000 by August. We spent a lot of money in Mountaintops.
That project was 2 million.
Huh?
That project was 2 million.
It's finished?
It's $2 million.
it's
It was $2 million,
$2
I understand.
Yeah.
It was
Didn't we
$2
get a
million.
grant on that though? We only had to pay like $1 million of it, didn't we?
$2 million.
We have ARPA funds for that.
But you
But-
still
but-
end up having to
Yeah,
pay.
you
a
still had to
million.
pay, you had to pay
$1
still $1
million, so it
million.
wasn't $2 million.
But the people that,
The whole project.
the people that paid that don't particularly live in mountaintops.
No, they
That's
do.
what I'm saying.
Well-
Oh, no, you're right, yeah, because, and what she's saying is you could
I
do a.
understand.
And I'm
Yeah.
not prepared to make a
I
recommendation
understand
on
that.
that
I
particular
just wa-
project or the cost of
I'm
that.
not
You
gonna be
asked
sitting
me-
here in 2 months, and I wanted the people that are gonna be sitting here
But
in
just
2
to,
months to
just to
know
clarify though,
numbers.
what you could do though, is you, like, cause you was talking about the 28 houses, you could, let's just say, take mountaintops. They could be charged at a higher rate for water.
You should, in my recommendation, the city should look at it, what I call a cost recovery rate structure for the entire water system and sewer as well. And that would break the system down into the various components and be able to say, component A costs X amount to operate, the system, component P costs Y. And your rate structure for people who live in A and people who live in B would be different based on what the demand and the financial demand they're putting
would
on
be
the
great.
system.
And that's what we was
That would be
gonna
great.
recommend. The ideals was gonna leave with council, like she goes 12/31 through the contract and then. I guess
So-
like the police department.
What is our non-wholesale? Who's our biggest non-wholesale we supply to?
I'm sorry, I don't have that data.
Who would we sell non-wholesale to? Who would we sell wholesale to?
To my knowledge, the only wholesale customer that you have is the county, is Fannin County. the water
County,
So
the county
we're-
water authority.
So we're selling water to the county at a wholesale price. Are we making anything on that? Are we breaking even, or are we losing money?
The numbers that I have seen are dated, but based on those numbers, you are not breaking even.
We are
We
losing
are
money?
losing money.
Then that's not wholesale.
Well, that's what you call it.
That's why we're gonna work on that.
But, and listen, I don't think this is the time or place to.
I
get into
understand,
any of
but-
These particular issues, but I do think each of these issues that y'all have brought up, these particular projects, this wholesale rate, the wholesale customers, are exactly the kind of things and the exact kind of discussions that council should be having, needs to be having, as soon as all of the data is available for you to consider. Right now, we don't have all of the GFA data. We're in the process of procuring that for you.
When will it be ready?
Well, we're working as diligently.
I know you are,
I'm
Mandy.
not- I'm
Can
not
you
in a
give me
pos-
anything?
I am not in a position to make a promise to you on that.
Okay.
I wish I was, and if I was, I would give it to you. But every day is a new adventure, okay?
Okay.
But we are working with GFA to get the latest, most comprehensive information, on all of your notes, all of your loan forgiveness, all of your interest rates, what's been committed, what's been borrowed, what the repayment plans are, all of those details. We're reevaluating all of your projects at this time. We are looking at your wholesale water agreement because that's gonna have a sooner rather than later date that you guys are gonna have to make some decisions on it. And we are working every day. I just told you, Tasty and I were on the phone last night, not yesterday during business hours, last night with the financial consultant, talking about your 24 numbers, and one of those was your GFA debt and how much debt we could see had been accumulated prior to 23, how much you took on in 23, and what early debt we're finding in 24, which is why I'm saying I'm seeing some indicators here that dealing with the water system's finances is a sooner rather than later priority issue for mayor and council.
Okay, these projects that you have paused, are they essential projects? We're not harming anybody, or citizens are not, we're not having a trouble with not supplying or anything for the citizens, right?
We have daily challenges with the water department, and there are sometimes temporary outages. That said, what we learned, what we visited, part of what we dealt with the engineer on Monday was that there was no, quote, on fire projects.
Okay.
There's one.
So
urgent-
nobody's
There is
suffering
one-
because we've
one
paused a
urgent-
project,
There's one urgent
Not
one,
one urgent one.
one urgent one.
which is?
But
a
it's
pump
not,
station.
yeah.
It's a pump station that is, that needs to be repaired and upgraded. We're down to one pump when we really need multiple pumps at that station. And so
Okay,
that
or
was
have
our
we
urgent
paused
one.
that one?
We are reevaluating that one, and we have.
That's the $600,000 one, or?
That is the 600,000 one, and we are getting new bids. We've gotten some new bids on that, and we are looking at, we looked at, could we redesign that one Or did we even have to redesign it, to rebid it, to get it down to
And-
a more affordable project?
And I understand, and I'm not trying to speak out of turn here from talking to both of you this week, that you have got those bids in at about a third, can I say a third, of what the price was? Quoted?
Total, it's a 6.
It's a 6.
You've got it down to a sixth.
Rob did, yes.
Good job, Rob.
Yes, good job.
Good job.
But so basically,
You got a few deals with TMU.
basically to get the money
Team
rolling
you.
again, the audits have to be done. So I guess the question would be, is there anything that this council could do to approve to get it, to speed it up?
We don't know how much money we have. We don't know how much money we can spend, am I correct?
You don't know yet how much money you have, but to answer Councilperson Arb's question, I'm going to recommend strongly that you continue your engagement with JAT Consulting. They will complete your 24 audit. They're engaged to do that, and I know that company well enough to tell you that if she's not done on December 31st, she will continue the work unless you tell her not
Because
to.
we have to do a single audit as well.
Yeah,
And
that-
that's gonna be in addition to your citywide financial statements, like what you're seeing tonight. We have learned that you are gonna have to prepare also a single audit. So I'm gonna recommend to you that you extend your engagement with JAT to help with that, if necessary.
How long?
As long as it takes for her to perform that task.
So is that what we need to make a motion to do, as long as it takes?
I would not phrase it that way. Contract her to
To complete
perform
the-
the preparation task for the FY '24 single audit. And I would recommend that we ask that same company to stay on with you, to prepare your FY '25 books, because if you
Can
remember.
we do that as a motion, Chuck, now?
And I'm speaking a little bit out of turn here,
what I
because,
would-
I don't have a commitment from JAT, I don't have price details and all that
I
sort of
think you'd
thing, but-
rather, I mean, we've
Wait
got
until the
meetings
meeting.
coming up, and so let's.
So it's
let's-
nothing that has to be done immediately,
We
is
don't,
what
re-
you're saying?
we don't,
Okay.
we
But
don't
I
really have an
would-
actual proposal or
I
anything
would
yet.
actually,
Okay.
but I would encourage you to ask for that proposal from JAT and extend their engagement with you into the 2025 fiscal year, because their task currently will end with the close of the '24 fiscal year. You're gonna need them into '25.
And let me remind you guys, the 24 is what, we're really literally right now 5 months behind on it, because it was due in June of this year. So you're working on 24s, 25s, just like normal taxes. So 24s, we are 5 months behind right now, but we hope, I pray, that we get them completed with, hopefully within the next 2 months, month or two, 2 months, maybe.
Goals.
We'll see.
We've set some goals last night.
We've set-
You wanna speak to those goals a
Yeah.
little bit?
Just one second. So you want us to re-engage these folks, continue their contract. You're gonna work on that, right? You're working on that actively now.
Jack, you
You're-
need to re-engage her contract or it runs out in 6
I
weeks.
understand, Doc, I understand, but right now, we're working on the audit contract, so we need to do that, and you're gonna get that to us as soon as you possibly can for a vote, right?
I'm gonna recommend again that you engage JAT Consulting for 25 audit prep and Tacey's firm for 25 audit preparation.
I'd like for you to do that and present that to the council, please.
Be happy to.
Okay. I think you were,
Status.
24 status, please, yes.
So as Mandy mentioned, we did have a phone conversation with JAT's consultant last night to be able to give you an update. So the good news is that she has reconciled your bank accounts through the end of September 2024, which means we have 3 months left. But let me just remind you, those are simply bank reconciliations. She then has to go back and get ready for the audit. And that is preparing the work papers that the city needs. That's adjusting your year-end balances. These are all the year-end closing entries, recording your capital assets and your depreciation, adjusting your debt, all of the things that make up that set of financial statements. So while I am very encouraged that she has worked hard and she is through the end of September, she has a lot of work left to do.
That's definitely not by the end of the year, Jack. You're talking March or something.
Well, let's let her
I hear you,
finish.
Doc.
Let's let her finish.
I'm hearing you.
Our
Let her finish.
our goal is that she will have that 2024 audit prep information to our firm by December. That is our goal.
December.
We have,
Middle.
December. I can't
We
get any
just
better.
can't tie you guys down, can I?
I'm not putting words
Just
in someone
can't tie
else's
you guys
mouth.
down.
I need her too badly to speak wrongly, so.
Okay.
That
all
being
right.
said, our firm is prepared and has been making preparations to be able to halt whatever it is we are doing to jump back into the 2024 audit. We do have concerns the later we get, but we are prepared to hop in December when it is ready. So that is the update we can give you. We have no promises on end dates. It is a single audit, so let me remind you that that is a compliance audit on the actual federal programs that you received and spent federal funds to finance those projects. That is a separate layer, for lack of a better word. I will do for 2024 what I did for 2023, and that's a financial statement audit. But when a government spends more than $750,000 in federal funding, you're required to have an auditor look at those projects and any project that had such funding and look for compliance with those contracts and the requirements of those funding. So we actually report to the state of Georgia in those instances and the federal government to tell them whether or not you are in compliance with the stipulations in the contracts for that federal funding. So that does add some time to your 2024 audit, and it is why the engagement letter you signed for our firm had a increased fee for 2024. So that's our picture of where we are on 24. We are hopeful to start in December.
And that project would have been the storm drain project at, down at Mountain Street, our parking lot.
There were two projects, is
yeah.
my understanding,
And I
that
believe
had
this one
federal
over
funding.
here, yeah, the Depot Street one, I believe too as well.
That's the one that
It's
shut down
phase
our
one, phase
federal-
two.
federal funding, correct? It was because of that audit we lost our federal funding, am I correct?
No.
Didn't,
So it was a combination of all, or?
The reason given to us, and this is a little bit of a difficult situation because we have not, to my knowledge, received a formal notification from GFA that they are terminating or suspending funds. We've only had telephone conversations with them, but I have talked all the way up to the head of GFA. The stated reason that funds have been suspended is because the 23 and 24 audits have not been submitted. The more we learn, the more I suspect that the additional reason is because of concerns about our debt coverage.
Okay.
I'm going, and that is speculation on my part, let me be clear about that, okay? That is speculation on my part. But as I'm seeing that we have a number of open loan commitments with that one agency, our debt coverage ratio is nearing its limit. We have not submitted the two audits. The single audit for the federal funds has been determined as necessary. All of these things are starting to add up, okay? And so I suspect that there were a number of factors, which would explain why your city attorney, myself, and your auditor have never heard of GFA doing this before.
That's what my next question. Have you ever heard of this happening anywhere else ever?
No, and I made several phone calls to other colleagues who are managers, auditors, finance consultants, engineers who work in this space, lots of colleagues over the decades. We have learned that there's one other community who received the same phone call that we did. But previous to that, none of us were familiar with this step ever being taken.
Chuck? You ever been familiar with anything like that?
I'm not. Mandy and I talked about it, but I've never been in a situation quite like it.
Well, we found out, didn't
hey,
we?
but we did receive a check for $297,000 the other day.
We did,
Yeah.
and you know, it's kind of.
Did we put it in the right account?
So I don't know that they really start putting, but they're threatening. I don't know. We don't really know. We've not received anything official.
We gotta laugh. This is so ridiculous. We gotta laugh. You gotta laugh sometimes.
You do have to laugh.
Good night.
Two other penalties that I want to address because I want to speak to you in the spirit of full disclosure.
Mandy, get up to the microphone so you'll be on the tape.
The second penalty I want to make sure that you guys are aware of is we have a banking relationship with Bank of America for something that's called a purchasing card. A purchasing card in government is similar to, it's like your American Express card. It's not a credit card. We're not running a debt on it.
it's a charge card. You know, the council staff, I'm not pointing fingers, but city officials can have a purchasing card that they can transact city business on, whether if you're traveling, if you're training, if you just need to run to the hardware store for a $5, you know, piece of supply to finish something. The city is due for a credit check and a renewal on your purchasing card program with Bank of America. We have had some communication with them that if they did not receive the numbers that you received tonight from us by November 21st, they were not going to renew our purchasing card privileges with them. So Tacey was able and willing to very promptly send them a preliminary trial balance of your 23 numbers. They received that warmly in a nice little email, and we will give them these numbers by November 21st. But I'm sharing this with you to say one of the penalties is we are being reevaluated for you know, continued relationship with that purchasing card program.
So our credit has dropped.
Your credit is full and then some, and it may be cut off.
Yeah, we're junk bonds.
But as a whole, our credit card is gonna get turned off. That's
Probably.
what you're
May-
telling
you
me.
know,
No, probably not.
And
It,
it's-
it sounds good.
And the third penalty that I'm gonna offer up to you is just being paralyzed. You all are paralyzed from being able to make financial decisions moving forward. Rob and I are unable to make quality decisions for you. Your other staff is, you know, we're just in a pattern where we simply do not have enough accurate, timely, reliable information to give you good advice, for you to then therefore make good decisions. And I'm gonna just start my 26th presentation right there, and Rob and Tacey don't go anywhere, but I'm gonna start with your water fund and tell you that we are obligated, you know, by state law and local ordinance to adopt a budget for fiscal year 26, because that budget year starts on January 1, 2026, and your local ordinances say that in November of each year, you should adopt a balanced budget for the next fiscal year. I'm going to tell you that you have some water numbers in front of you that you can adopt if you so choose, but they are not going to be reliable for you to move forward into 2026 with. You all, the 2026 mayor and council must reevaluate your enterprise fund budget, which is your water sewer budget, and all of your special revenue funds in 2026. The reason for that is because, as we just talked about with your GFA notes, we are currently reevaluating all of those GFA notes and also trying to make sure that we have a complete and accurate handle on all of your loan payments. When are they due? How much are they? You know, we had an instance just after I started with you where I got handed a $400,000 bond payment that was due, and I said, where's the money for that? You know, so that was a fun little chore to go down. So we're making, but I was not able, and I apologize. You know, I told Rob earlier today, I told Tacey this, I have never in my career presented a budget that I would tell a council is unreliable, and it pains me to do that with you all tonight. But there simply has not been enough accurate and timely and reliable information, particularly on the water fund, for me to give you a budget that would be reliable moving forward. In addition to the outstanding knowledge on the notes, as we've discussed, we were basically without a finance department. No disrespect to the one individual who's working hard in that department. He's just been with the city a few months. He's straight out of college doing a very good job at what we task him with. But we have been without a finance director for 2025. So I received year-to-date 2025 numbers on Monday at mid-morning. And the only other numbers that Rob and I have had to work with from a budgetary compliance standpoint for 2025 were dated August 31st. That was the very first set of numbers that we were able to produce in 2025. I was trying to work from those numbers for you all, but we were able to get September 30 numbers, and they were so significantly different that they made a tremendous impact on the documents. So several of you saw me back there today at, you know, the 9th, 11th hour working on documents, was because I was working with fresh numbers. Now, it's great that we got numbers through September 30th, because that means that the people we have engaged that are on our staff, the consultants that are working with us, are working hard, and they are They are getting the books up to date. But what I do know about those numbers, as hard as they are working, is those are basic entries. Those entries have not been verified and double-checked. They have not been allocated across the funds. They have not been they have not, what we squared up. We have a lot of due-tos and due-froms, the various funds. None of those transactions have happened. In the midst of all this, we have had to remap our revenue streams and our expenditure streams. So I'm gonna tell you that those September 30 numbers are preliminary numbers, very preliminary numbers, that are going to change. And because those numbers are so preliminary and they will change, and they are so fresh, and because the debt load question for the Water Enterprise Fund is so still outstanding and the projects are being reevaluated, you have numbers on a page that you can adopt for 2026 for your water fund. But they are unreliable. I wrote them there. I'm telling you, they are unreliable. You will need to revisit this budget when that information is produced and is reliable.
Manny, I am correct by saying not only is it legal, but it's very common that quarterly or whatever, an organization looks at their projections, which is a budget's guess. They look at their performance and they adjust the budget.
Your budget is considered your primary planning, your
Correct.
policy, your
But I'm
primary
just saying
policy
that
document.
what
And
you're telling us, tells
you-
us that the new council just needs to be diligent about visiting the budget at intervals.
Council should be receiving, without asking for it, should be receiving a monthly budget report at your meetings.
Yep.
That budget report should produce for you year-to-date revenues, expenditures, and encumbrances. Now, one of the things that we are adding to your system right now has not been fully implemented, but has been purchased, and we're working on it, is we've talked about this, your purchasing system is completely separate from your finance system. So when your staff is putting in a purchase order, and that's often happening post-purchase, not pre-purchase, it's sitting over here in this system that's not talking to your system that's producing financial reports for you. So we've added to your financial system a purchasing module. So we will be implementing a system where now, prior to a purchase being made, a requisition request will be entered. It will go through the proper channels for ultimate approval at whatever level it needs to be approved. And when it is approved, those funds will be encumbered. We haven't written a check for them yet, but we have promised them out. We've spent them and all but, writing the check, right? So you should, without request, be produced monthly a revenue, expenditure, and encumbered year-to-date budget report, okay? In addition to that, I recommend that councils do at least a quarterly, and I think Tacey would join me in this, at least a quarterly budget review and update. And amend your budget at least, I would say at least quarterly. You have a recommendation that differs from that, or?
I don't have a recommendation per se, but some of you have been here long enough to remember that the city of Blue Ridge used to routinely amend their budget quarterly. So-
How hard is that?
In the normal course of operation.
How hard is that to do that?
It's not hard.
How hard is that to do that and get a report to the council?
If your systems and your employees are in place, it's not hard at all.
So you
It's normal
basically
course
just
of
go in, do
business.
the numbers, print it off, and send it to the council?
We'll have a purchasing policy procedure like we have, and it'd be implemented over here, would be fair to say, and that would be following the rules as that goes. So whoever's there, I would strongly recommend that. We have it, but it's kind of went by the wayside because, again, the staff that's on set, they've done a great job. You've had Barbie in there trying to,
Are they aware of this? Are they aware of their duties?
No, their duties were,
I'm asking you that report, are they aware if we tell them we want that quarterly? Are they aware of that duty and can they perform it?
Part of the issue has been that these duties he just mentioned Barbie, these financial duties have been assigned to folks outside of the finance department, which gets right back to a finding that Tacey brought to your attention about internal controls and segregation of duties. Too many of the same people were doing things that were outside of what they should have been doing. we need to continue the work. One of the recommendations for you all is we need to continue the work of segregating the duties, implementing these systems, and teaching people how to use these new systems.
That's where I'm going. Have
we-
you segregated those duties,
We are
Mandy?
working on that.
Okay.
It is not as easy or as fast as
That's
y'all
what I
want
want
it
you to
be.
tell me. That's what I want you to
Okay,
tell
let
me.
me say it again, because y'all come in here every day, some of you, and say, have you done this yet? We are working diligently to make all of these things happen, but it is not as easy and it is not as quick as we would all like for it to be.
Okay.
For example, I bought the purchasing module, put it on some systems, started training the staff, only to learn that people outside of this building couldn't dial into the system, so I had to go buy internet services and run internet lines for people outside of this building so they could use the system. So as we peel the onion, we find more things on the task list, okay? But if it all continues and these folks are trained and these systems and policies are put into place, then it is an easy course of business task to give you a monthly budget report and to prepare and perform quarterly amendments to keep you on track.
I have a question, like payroll, for instance. Who is responsible for, who, would that normally be within your, finance department?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think, has Barbie not been doing that for?
Your payroll has not been handled inside of your finance department,
Okay.
and that is another one of
Yeah.
the transitions that we are trying to make. But for quite a while, we did not have anyone in the finance department who was trained in payroll production. Just like I said a while ago, I would tell you that I can be a city manager. I can't be a finance director. I can't run payroll. I wouldn't have the foggiest idea where to begin to actually produce payroll. I know it needs to be done, obviously, right? But, you don't want someone like me to actually produce your payroll. So we have relied on staff.
Who stepped up?
Who stepped up.
Voluntarily
Yeah.
did it.
Well, we've
Yeah.
got a great staff. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
What we have retained have been great. We got great people.
And I'm with Rob. I'm not gonna fault find on people or say, so-and-so didn't, did whatever wrong or incomplete or whatever, when it's way outside of the course of their duties that they're being compensated for, quite frankly, because they're doing stuff that
Yep.
just needed to be done, and they're
That's right,
trying to
we
carry
are.
the load.
Stepping in.
I mean, and that's what's happened, so people outside of the finance department have been making payroll happen. Quite candidly, people outside of the finance department have been making accounts payable happen. Your vendors have been paid because people said, and they said, none of these, they haven't been formally trained in these areas. They were just doing the best job that they knew how to do to try to keep the city functioning.
So
And you gotta applaud them for
And
that.
so going forward, really, because I know probably bigger cities has within their finance department, they've got somebody that does payroll, somebody that does accounts payable, so you've got multiple people.
That's what
One
she's
person has
done.
always done that,
Yeah.
Alicia done it, and then we cut it and start, letting other people do a few things, but really that's what needs to happen. You need, within the finance department, that it needs to be 2 or 3 people doing
We've
certain things.
allocated positions for that, but we
Yeah.
gotta hire,
We do need to
know,
hire one more
yeah.
person
but
right
we're
now.
not just gonna hire anyone. They gotta be qualified where they need to be.
Right.
That's another thing. We're not just going to
Matter of fact, that's
positions
in
with
the
warm
charter.
bodies. We're going to get qualified people.
That's in the charter.
Yeah.
It's an obligation.
Well, I just want to say one thing, that people are not beating down the doors to put applications in to work for the city of Blue Ridge. So how are you going to combat that problem?
How are you gonna combat that problem?
I have no idea.
Hey, that's
Maybe,
your
maybe
job.
get morale up in City Hall and I don't know, honestly. I mean, if people don't want to put in an application, you can't go out and drag them in
We
here.
have to change the culture.
You do have to change the culture, and you're gonna have to look at your compensation schedule and your benefits packages, and it is really a lot about culture too. Good people wanna work for good places.
How many law enforcement officers have we lost in the last 2 years, Robbie?
We've lost a lot, but that's, in general, law enforcement in itself has taken a beating, because it's not a job that anybody wants to do.
Where have they gone?
It's not good pay.
Well, we've had 3 just go right off Alpharetta, those big departments.
Alpharetta pays more, Rob?
Oh, yeah. They pay a lot. It's
No
not-
way we can match
Oh,
Alpharetta.
no. But there again, like I said, in any environment matters a lot. No one's gonna jump ship for, say, 50 cents or $1 most of the time. Environment means a lot. But
So
law
like she
enforcement
said,
is
change the
not-
culture of what's going on here.
And I wanna say, not just retain your employees, if you're qualified, hire qualified people, work to retain them, but the city really needs to have a consistent organizational structure. There's been so many different people in charge at various times of what y'all refer to as City Hall, what I would refer to as General Administration and Finance Departments. Different folks have been in charge at various different times, and they've brought different expectations or standards or capabilities to the, you know, to the role. And every time that that changes, people then become confused. They don't know what direction to go in. I did this yesterday, but today, you know, yesterday was left, today's right, tomorrow's up, next week's down.
Are you gonna tell us what you really mean, Mandy?
I think, I just did, I tried to be
But you
nice.
sugarcoated it, Mandy.
Quit changing who's in charge every day. Have a city administrator or whatever function that is, however you wanna split it up, a mayor, however you want your form of government to be, decide what you want, that's your job, mayor and council, decide what you want your form of government to be. Make sure that you've got a highly qualified, competent, experienced person in that role, because I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people will tell you that they can run a city, and they're lying to you.
I can tell you that for a fact.
Okay? And then be consistent with that person and let that person build structure, build policies, build processes, build procedures, train the staff, develop relationships with the staff, and let it work. You guys have good people to work with on your staff team. Just give them direction that they can count on.
You know,
and
everybody
train
thinks
them.
they can run a city. I run businesses too. A lot of us sitting here do. But our only concern at the end of the year is paying the IRS what we owe them. This thing has got, you got hotel motel tax, you got splosh, you got this gotta go into this account, do this and be here, used here, used there. It's not as easy as people think it
A
is.
city is not a business. A city is multiple businesses.
In one.
And a nonprofit organization in one umbrella, because Tacey referenced this a while ago. You have different funds. There's a chart in your handout, you can look at it later, of all the different funds that you have to keep your money segregated and accounted for. Each of those funds have different legal restrictions on how those dollars may be utilized.
That's why we have 14 accounts, right?
No, those are cash accounts. That's a totally different animal and separate from the ones that the fund accounts that I'm talking to you about. Payroll came up, about payroll. Police payroll is different than any other department that we have in the city. It's regulated by the federal government that we have to do police payroll differently. If you came in from a private enterprise and said, I've run payroll for 20 years, my question to you is, has it ever been for a police department? Because if your response to that is no, I'm gonna tell you, you don't know how to do government payroll. And it's different for fire. You don't have a fire department, but I'm just saying, there are unique attributes of a local government. It is not a single entity. Your enterprise fund, water, is supposed to make money. It's an enterprise. It's a business. It's called that. But you don't run your general fund to make money. It has a police department in it. It has a parks department in it. So you have to have different guiding philosophies and ideologies when you approach each of these components of your budget. Tacey talked to you about your hotel motel tax a while ago. That's a great component of your budget. It's a very healthy revenue stream for you all. It's holding you up in a lot of respects, but you gotta know how to expend it correctly.
How do we increase that without hurting the residents?
You guys are sitting on a lovely gold mine.
Okay, explain. Move closer to the mic and
Lo-
explain,
lovely.
Mandy.
Go out on the front steps and look around.
Oh, we live in a beautiful city.
You live in a beautiful city, and you counted what, 6 tour buses downtown the other day of people who want to come and visit your city.
Tourism.
And I could name
It's
you
our
a
cash part.
dozen cities off the top of my head who would gladly change positions with you.
Yep.
Okay, so answer the
Okay.
question. How do
So
we
you
increase
need-
that revenue?
You have a number, and again, I think that's a half a day conversation with the mayor and council.
When do you want to make the
on
next meeting for that
revenue-
conversation?
On revenue opportunities. Well, I want to put the fire out before I talk to you.
Thank you,
I mean,
okay.
y'all, again, we go back to y'all keep asking me, what can we do and how fast can we do it? The house is on fire and we're trying to put it out. That's first order of business. I don't know how to say it any plainer than that.
Thank you for saying it plain.
I mean, and that's when, I know some of you are upset with me because I haven't accomplished certain things that you want to have seen accomplished, and I'm as sorry for that as I can be, but I've prioritized
I
how I
want,
spent my day.
I speak for me, and I want you to put the fire out. I want you and Rob to put the fire out in the
We
city
are.
first. And then we'll worry about other things.
And
Let's keep everybody going well, put the fire out, keep the city running, and then we'll move on to see what we gotta do next.
I agree, and thank you, and we are, we're working very hard to do that, and I think we're working very well together to do that, and I appreciate his partnership tremendously. I ask you guys to put him in this role, and it's made all the difference. You can see the productivity levels that have changed in the time that I did not have him at my side and the time that I do. So he's been instrumental in this, and I'm grateful
Don't give
for
him the
that.
big head.
Well, he knows this, I told him this, but you have a number of revenue options to explore. Tourism is an obvious one, and there are several mechanisms that you can lean on for that. There are others. Setting financial policy and direction is the role of the governing body. It would be our job and your consultant's job to come to you with different ideas for you to consider, and for you all to then determine which of those ideas meet with your vision and your ideology for governing the city or not. There are a list. We can give you lots of ideas for you to consider. Those merit a full and complete discussion. That discussion is not tonight, but it needs to be soon. I'm gonna tell you that it needs to happen, if not by year end, very, very early in the calendar year of 2026.
Tell me why.
Because,
Tell me why.
because your current practices are unsustainable.
You're telling me that if we continue the course we're on, we're going to fail miserably. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I realize we are failing. I'm asking you that if we continue the course we're on, the city is going to fail. Is that what you're
Financially,
telling me?
Yes, but I'm also telling you that it can be saved. Time is of the essence, action is necessary, but it can not only be saved, it can be reversed.
And you have an idea for this,
I have lots of ideas for this.
and you're gonna present them before you leave, or whatever we do
I'm not making that
next.
promise.
We
Because, I'm gonna get to you, I'm sorry, but the reason I am delaying the presentation of those ideas to you is, I'm going back, we do not have current reliable data to give you a full picture on. We can tell you that the house is on fire. We can tell you that we know that the water fund only made $72,000 in '23. We know that. Your auditor has committed that number to you. We know that things have happened in '24 and '25 that will exasperate that problem, right? But I want real data to give you so that I can give you real recommendations to work from.
So you know the house is on fire, you just don't know if it's gasoline, diesel, or kerosene.
We're telling you it's on fire and bringing you problems, but we'll bring you solutions
Yes.
for those problems.
That's
you gotta
that's
have to
what
be.
we need. We need to know
And
the
that's what
problem.
we're working on.
And we're working
No
on it.
bull, we just need to know the problem, where we are, and we need to move to fix it.
Yes.
Bring us a solution along with the problem.
And one of the reasons I want to explain, one of the reasons that the data is so important, and I said this for your enterprise fund and what we call your special revenue funds. Your special revenue funds are not water and not the general fund, okay? And they're outlined in these packets, and we can talk more about that. But they're your legally restricted funds. Hotel motel tax is a great example of that. Those funds carry what we call a fund balance every year. Maybe, I think of it a lot of times as a savings account. You know, money that we earned in those funds that we did not expend in previous years carries forward. Well, that's really the number that tells you what you have to work with. Okay, so Tacey mentioned to you, you had not expended 160 some odd thousand, if I remember correctly, in hotel motel tax in the legally required way. Well, that's a '23 number. You may have more in '24 and more in '25 that we need to add to that. Well, I wanna give you all of that data so then you can make a real and informed and quality decision about what kind of project you want to expend those funds on in a legally compliant way.
Because it has to be done by the end of the year.
Exactly, so, but I don't wanna tell you to go spend $160,000 on a particular project when you might really have 500,000. See, I don't know that number yet, I don't know that 500,000.
You'll know that when 25 is done.
I'll know that when 25 is done.
Okay.
I'll have an even better indication when 24 is done. Same with our water projects. You'll have a fund balance or a net position in your water department when these books are done. That will really, same for your SPOS dollars. Once all those figures are actually completely, you know, when they're calculated and available, then we know exactly how much money you have to work with, because we can take your savings account, your reserve, your fund balance from each of those, add that to your current year revenues, Add that to any revenue decisions that you all want to make and implement for moving forward that may bring us some additional opportunities. Now we know what we're working with. Now we can make a plan for moving forward. You see, until Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock of last week, the best information we had was from December 31st of 2022.
Oh, lovely.
Okay, when we tell you that your 23 and 24 audits were not completed, what I'm telling you is, we didn't have data from January, the last data we had was dated December 31st, 2022. Madam Auditor?
Correct.
Okay? Now, that was your accounting data. We hadn't reconciled a bank statement since about September of 2023, so I didn't even know how much cash you had. Now, because cash in the bank is not cash available to spend. Several of us have talked about that.
Yes, we have.
Okay, so you all see how complex this issue is, and why I'm trying to be honest and respectful, but tell you, I just don't think we're in a position to do a lot of financial planning at this point in time. We just don't have the
Okay.
information.
Well, speaking of that, time is running out. We are down to 2 hours and 15 minutes into this, so can we move forward and let you present to the council the 2000,
I
what
think
you,
the only thing else that I'm gonna say, Mayor,
It's
since
just
for
what-
time is of the essence, that I just wanna talk a little, say this about your
Mhm.
general fund. Your general fund is what most of you think of as the operating department for the city. It houses, you all, the mayor and council, the finance department, the planning and zoning department, the city clerk's department, police, parks and streets. It's your primary operating department. As Tacey indicated in 23, it kinda held its own. In fact, it contributed to your fund balance, which meant you brought in more money than you spent that year. What, $800,000, $500,000 or so? We don't have 24 numbers, but preliminary indications from 25 is that your general fund will hold its own again. Okay, so that fund is not in as dire straits from indications at this point. That fund is not as healthy and as robust as I'd like to see it, and you don't have as much in fund balance as I would recommend, but you're paying your bills.
Take a break.
And you've got some comfort, you got a little margin, okay? And so your 26 general fund numbers that are in this packet are based off of that. When I was able to get the trial balance of the 23 numbers, what I was able to notice was that your 25 revenues and your 25 expenditures were very much in line with your 23 numbers. And so that gave me, a little more comfort than I've had with the other calculations, okay? So the 26 numbers that are proposed for you are, consistent with those numbers of 23.
Can we take a little bit of a break, let everybody use the bathroom, and then
Sure.
continue this?
And I'm going to Angie first for a
About-
question, because I've
Yeah.
postponed her a couple times, and I'm sorry for that.
okay. Yeah, then let's take a small break, and then are you planning to actually go over, yeah?
No, I don't see any reason to, I
Okay.
think we've beat that. I just want to talk about your tax digest.
Okay.
And then we need
And
to
then-
vote on
and then we
these,
can-
or we need to hear these two readings, right?
And when you come back, yes.
All right, I'd say take about 5 minutes.
Okay,
10
that
minutes.
works. Let's do it. Oh, my gosh, I'm stiff. Cause I thought, well. Yeah, so I have and it starts beeping if cause my blood sugar was kind of.
Yeah, we're kind of,
I love sheephead. I just caught it so long. Good time of the year to do it. It is.
Any time of the year is a good time to catch fish.
Were you enjoying married life? You've been married 63 years, 50 to Jane. And Jane and I will be February. Somebody was saying the other day, how long you been married to us? I said, I've been married 63 years, but 50 to Jane. She's been married 53 years, 50 to me. It works a little better than this.
Okay, I think it's been about 5 minutes. so let's get started back.
You have,
Next week, and that's what I'm about to mention. Yeah, because we've got to adopt this budget.
Oh, so we're doing it quickly, okay. So this is the first reading, okay. Okay.
Okay, I think if you can just kind of, I know we're not going to go over this. Each and every one of you in here should have the handout that's given to you, which says City of Blue Ridge proposed fiscal year budget for 2026. If you will, please take the opportunity. You know, this is, again, we'll be revising it. You guys will at the beginning of next year, hopefully, with better numbers. Mandy, is there anything we need to do with this tonight?
There's one.
Speak into the microphone, Mandy. I got a phone call that said they can't hear us.
I'm sorry. The council does have an option, unless Chuck disagrees with me. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. You are scheduled to adopt a 2026 budget next week. I believe, I would say that you have the option of delaying that adoption if you would like to do so. You do need a budget for January 1st, but as I understand state and local law, if you do not adopt a 2026 budget, your current expenditure levels would roll over on a month-to-month basis. I don't recommend it. You would be non-compliant. You know, but if you're not prepared to vote on a budget November 12th, or I believe that's the date we currently have scheduled, because of the concerns that we have articulated to you, that's completely understandable, and we could give it a few weeks to see what more data comes in. We probably, like I said, we won't have the 24 audited numbers, but we will know more about our projects, our infrastructure projects. We will know more about our debt structures. So we'll have more very important information that if council wanted to postpone or delay the vote until some of that came in, I believe you're within your rights in the law to do that, and we could produce a better budget for you.
But we can revise the budget we adopt.
Absolutely.
Let's get, I
Absolutely.
believe we should get the budget adopted, and if we need to do a revision, we can do a revision. That way we're.
I agree with you,
we-
Jack.
We
I agree
don't wanna
with you,
get
Jack.
into this situation again. So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
we have a budget, even if it's not quite proper, but we have to have it by state law, let's get it done, get it adopted, and then we'll revise it.
That's fine.
I
My
mean,
opinion.
here's what happened last year. The budget that we had last year was not done with a professional in any form or fashion. We did not have a finance director during the entire budget process. So that last year's budget, when you start looking at the audit for next year, we adopted something that's definitely going to need some
And that
amendments.
has been one of the
Yeah.
challenges, the 2025 budget, and this is pointed out in the letter that you all have in your budget, your proposed budget. The 2025 budget that you're currently operating under has a number of deficiencies and challenges in and of itself. It did not adopt any revenues for any of your funds. That's number one. Number two, most of your pages called it a 2024 budget. Number three, several of the funds did not reconcile on various pages. Some of the funds, even when you added the columns for the controlled spending level for that department, the column itself did not add correctly. And then we've had some issues with the budget would say it funded X number of employees, but then when I actually tried to reconcile that and look at how many employees were being funded through that department, it was not X, it was some other number. So there are a number of challenges which has made this process even more complicated to get us to where we are. The next thing, you do need to have a public hearing and a first reading on your millage rate, because if you want to do that,
Yes.
the time is of the essence. Most of you have this. It was sent to you in an email. It ran in the newspaper. This is what we call your 5-year levy history. It is required by state law that we advertise this, and this gives you a snapshot of your digest values for the last 5 years. And the thing that I want to be sure to point out to you all is that your digest values declined year over year inside the city of Blue Ridge. What does that mean? That means that your digest values, your taxable property is not as valuable today as it was a year ago today.
That's bad, right?
It's incredibly concerning.
Wait a minute. The counties went up, correct?
And so did McKaysville's.
They did.
Counties and McKaysville went up, but
Correct.
ours declined?
Yes.
Why?
That merits some investigation. That merits a lot of investigation. Early information indicates that at least two things happened. One is several commercial properties appealed their valuation and were successful in their appeal, so that downgraded their their
That is
assessment.
correct.
You had this conversation. Why don't you answer that question? I don't want to speak for you.
The commercial and then the lack of sales inside the city. I think the
Sales of what?
Real estate.
real estate.
Okay.
So they actually went down. I think they had to go back.
And I think land, lots itself, that was one of the bigger, yeah.
Yeah, so that and lack of sales and the biggest, like I said, the commercial.
Mhm.
And
And
there
then
were some state law changes.
State laws, I think the inventory went from 7,500 to 20,000.
I think she said, no, I think it was 25,000 up to 75,000. You don't have to, for personal property, which would be things like businesses with their personal
Yeah.
property and short-term, vacation rentals, things of that
So
nature.
this wasn't our fault.
Well, if you.
Don't
Possibly.
sugarcoat it. Don't,
Well,
go over to the microphone so we can hear you. Don't
Your
sugarcoat it.
digest value is directly linked to your policies on land use and building
And development.
and
And
development.
development.
What you build, what you develop, what you allow to be built and developed, what your zoning ordinance allows, your subdivision ordinance allows, what rezone and annexation decisions you all make as a governing body, there is a direct correlation between your development decisions and your tax digest. There is a
So-
direct correlation between how healthy is your retail environment and your tax digest.
So
And
our
and
property
it's strong.
values in the city limits have gone down.
Your digest
Yes,
values, your
yes.
taxable digest values went down. Your exemption values also increased. So what you could tax decreased, what was exempted increased.
Eh.
So what that translates into is that to generate the same amount of property taxes in revenue to fund the general services of the city, police, streets, parks, the finance department, you all, those sorts of things, to earn the same amount of money to support those general services would require a higher millage rate to be assessed against properties inside the city limits.
How much higher?
I did not run that calculation. We proposed what's called a rollback rate, because that's what we understood. So
Guesstimate.
I'd have to run a
So
calculation.
because we
I'm
stopped
not
growth,
gonna guesstimate that.
it has,
Is that what you're saying?
It's hurt
Because
property
we stopped
values.
growth, it has hurt the millage, it has hurt
so
the
now
tax
we'll have to
value?
go up on taxes for
Absolutely.
people. Because we've
Absolutely.
stopped growth.
Yes,
What
absolutely.
is the old saying? You don't grow, you die on the vine.
Yeah. It's like
What I was
recession.
saying earlier, Jack, is that we've been talking about expenses when we gotta be also talking about revenue.
That's correct.
Now, there's
Mm-hmm.
big money in water.
We lost 12%.
There's big money in parking. If you look at this, there's not a lot of money in property tax revenue, but it's, it should be a million, it's, you're
Well,
gonna have to
you-
you're gonna have to raise your millage rate.
So the city earns, looking at 23 numbers and preliminary 25 numbers just as an indicator, you're getting about $900,000 a year in hotel motel tax. You're
Say
getting
that
about-
again, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're getting about $900,000 a year in excise tax on the hotel motel tax.
Uh-huh.
You're getting somewhere around $1.4 million a year in sales tax. And that's not total sales tax. You have 7-cent sales tax in Fannin County. One of those pennies is what we call a loss, local option sales tax. It's shared between the county and the municipalities, and I'm not sure what your formula is. I need to look it up. But whatever your share of that is sending you about $1.4 million annually. Your property taxes are bringing in less than $900,000.
What if we
So
didn't
it's the tourists downtown that are generating the money that's running the city.
So if we didn't have the downtown businesses or that hotel, we would be,
You would be in an entirely different financial situation, and it would not be good at all. So I did a little analysis, and I think it's in your handout. Of the taxes that are collected by the city of Blue Ridge, 62% of those tax collections, if I remember correctly, are business-related taxes.
Tourism.
And that includes like business license,
It
things
includes
of that
business
nature,
license,
everything.
alcohol license,
Yep.
franchise fees, insurance fees, financial institution taxes, all those taxes that are related to the business environment, meaning it's not taxes that homeowners are paying on their residents.
So that alleviates, the tourism alleviates the locals from having to pay more taxes.
What you were.
Your
it is-
millage rate
The
would
millage, yeah.
increase if you didn't have that.
Yeah.
Well, we don't what industry do we have here?
Tourism.
What other industry do
Tourism.
we have here?
Tourism.
Tourism, education,
But now, listen
tourism.
though, we're talking to somebody that's lived here my entire life. This city was probably in better financial shape before tourism, as far as what they get done for the people, and, you know, they provided a pool and this. So it don't add up to me. There's a lot of money coming in. A lot of money coming in from alcohol sales, hotel motel.
Alcohol
So-
sales
so-
went down.
So why, well, that's, tourism's down a little bit. But, you know, so I don't really get why, you know,
Well, listen, I'm not gonna tell you that tourism is not, every blessing has its burden with it, right? Like, I personally reside in a college town. The college adds tremendous value to the community that I live in. Jobs, revenue, sales tax, all sorts of stuff. But it's also tax exempt, and you have to police it and fire it and clean up after it and direct the traffic on game day, right? So it's as much a burden as it is a blessing financially, okay? And I worked in that city for 7 years, so I can just tell you that. So I'm not trying to tell you that tourism is perfect. I'm telling you that the data shows from what we have that more than 60% of the tax revenue that's generated in this city is directly related to the business environment. And so what that means is that that's also less demand that and burden that you're placing on your homeowners and your residents. And when
Right,
you're
right.
thinking about, to why did the digest value go down, when you're thinking about, is there anything you all can do to influence the digest value? Yes, it has a lot to do with what building land use zoning decisions you're making are going to directly impact the digest values.
so
Which is
basically,
in turn
basically,
gonna keep the property taxes down for the citizens.
Yes, and it maybe could even do more so, because one of the financial questions that you could examine is, are there opportunities to increase the revenue brought in by the tourism and business community? And are there opportunities to decrease the amount of ad valorem property taxes that your legacy residents are paying? So, for example, is there more homestead exemption opportunities for you all to look at?
Well, that's the question I asked you when we first started. How do we increase our revenue?
You gotta look at all those things. I'm gonna say to you what I've said earlier. There's no one silver bullet quick fix for this. There needs to be a comprehensive strategy to both the revenue and the expenditure side presented. There need to be different tactics, different strategies presented to council for you all to consider and evaluate. There's no one thing that you can do that's gonna be the magic fix.
well, there's.
Well, we're
Cumulative.
we're all residents. Everybody sitting that's here other than maybe Chuck is a resident of the city. We have to be. So we're all living in residential areas. So we're a part of it. And we need to do whatever we need to do to make the city prosper. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's a fact. Or we're gonna die. Is that not what you just told me? That if we continue the course we're on, we're going to die?
You're at the very least, your first step is gonna have to be to decrease services that you're providing. Decrease the services.
In what? Decrease what services, Mandy?
Well, I'm not making a recommendation that you decrease services, because I will tell you, there's no fat around here.
But what services are you telling me that we would have to decrease? And I'm not getting hateful with you, just tell me what services.
I'm not prepared to do that. You keep wanting me to give you an immediate answer that is a one-ticket ride to the solution, and it's not that simple. And I'm just not gonna get caught up in that trap. We need more data that's more timely, more accurate, more reliable, and then you need to look at the comprehensive picture.
Man, I am
And
not for cutting services to the,
I'm not making the recommendation
I
that you
know
do
you're
that.
not, but I
You
mean,
asked
that's
me,
just
is
a
it gonna
no-go.
die?
That's no bueno right there.
You asked me, is it gonna die? I'm telling
it's
you,
not gonna
Rob said it's on the way to that, but you might could cut services
No, no,
to
it's not. I've been
delay
here all my life.
the
It's
end.
not. You know,
I don't know.
that's ridiculous. So, I'm just talking to him. But basically, what I'm hearing here is that we have to grow our city, and that's not what people want. They want control growth, or we're gonna die.
No,
What I
ma'am.
said on that right there is just an
I mean-
old saying. And that's like anything, like any business. If you run it like a business, that's the old saying. I mean, you run a rafting business. You buy rafts every year. You try to spruce up your business. That's what I said by that right there.
But I do think, here's what I would like to propose to you guys, all of you. I think you do need to do what Mandy suggested when she first came. I think you need to take a retreat. You need to go away, maybe Brasstown, and y'all need to have a 2-day conference. And you need to sit down and you need to plan and you need to talk about issues and you need to have this time together and plan. Planning is key. And, you know.
Most cities have got a 20-year plan.
And here's the problem with cities. Here's the problem with cities, though, guys. You have elected officials who come and go, and the consistency doesn't remain the same. And I think if you adopt an official plan that we should have done years ago when we had one prepared, it will work. But when councils come and go, the ideas come and go, and the vision changes. But you've got to have a consistent vision that has been started, and DCA wants us to have that.
So that comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
Well, that's a different
when are you gonna
issue.
start on that?
So the comprehensive plan that you're referring to is a land use document, which does drive building and zoning, which then does have a correlation to your tax digest. It is all very connected, it absolutely is. Now, you asked me a question, Angie, during the break, what do we do about complaints and how do we address citizen concerns? It actually ties into what the mayor just said beautifully, because I'm strongly recommending that the 2026 governing body take a couple of days, go off-site somewhere where you can spend some focused time, really digging into these issues. We've given you a lot of information tonight. We've hit a lot of high points, but in my experience, I found it incredibly beneficial for the governing body to take some dedicated, focused time, hear from us in a more detailed, thoughtful manner with more, information that we can help you think through. Bring in some folks like your auditor to answer some more detailed questions, your financial consultant, your engineer who's working on your utility system, your lawyer to talk to you about the legal liabilities that the city has been exposed to in ways that you can mitigate and eliminate those types of things. Have those sessions with your professionals that are trying to help you. Also have a session during that time where the governing body talks back to us, your leadership staff, your consultants that are here daily operating. Tell us why you ran. Tell us what your vision is. Tell us what you're looking to accomplish. Have that conversation with each other at that table. And then before you leave, there's a little trick I use. I call it my now, next, later, no list. And when I do these retreats with governing bodies, what I do is I spend the entire time we're together listening, and I'm making notes of what y'all are nodding positively to or what you're saying absolutely not to. And then the last thing we would do together as a group is I would put it up on the screen for you. Oh, here are the things that I heard you say that you want to accomplish, and we put them on there. And then we timeline the order we're gonna tackle those in. Now, we're gonna put the fire out. We're gonna define what that means, and we're gonna put a date on it. Next, we're gonna do this. Later, we'll do this third thing, okay? So that we're building the foundation before we get to the roof. And the no is, well, you know what, I thought this was a really great idea, but I've learned some things these last couple of days that has made me change my mind, right? And then you guys have a plan that Rob's talking about that you come home with. Your operations team has a plan that we come home with, and we are mission focused at that point. We know what to work on. We know what to prioritize. We know that when we have competing priorities, which one to choose. We know how to direct the staff. We know how to channel complaints. We know how to give reports to you all. And then y'all aren't frustrated either, because I know some of you are frustrated that things that are very important to you are not being seen about. I hear you.
Green space.
She
I
talking
hear
about you?
Yeah, she's talking about me.
Signs.
My uplighting, green space, signage.
I think it helps people with their frustration levels if they understand that their requests and their concerns are not being ignored. They just have to get to the point where we can handle those things, and where those things become important because the urgent things have been tended to properly. So Mayor, I'm with you. I'm going to strongly suggest the 2026 governing body do that. I I think, you know, do that prior to taking office is even better because it can give you time to digest and think through and, you know, make some good decisions. Because 2026 is gonna hit the ground running for you.
It's, like I said in earlier, it's still moving. And in our plans, we have plans every day, and we come in, and it's kinda like, son of a gun.
Yeah,
We
I
can't get this done because we can't.
I start calling every morning at 7. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
crazy.
You know, my line is, we can't get out of our own way sometimes. Some of it's
Speak up,
self-inflicted.
go to the microphone.
We can't get out of our own ways. It's self-inflicted sometimes. It's stuff that's beyond our control. It just happens. Like I said, we had a main water line break today, and it was the one at the water treatment plant that feeds the water tank. So the guys might have been wanting to go fix something downtown on a complaint, maybe a water leak downtown. So it's a constant moving, and even if
Yeah,
we're gone,
they actually had another major project that they all had to pull off to go
Yeah.
get this one. So it's a changing
And
daily
it's-
course.
you live by your
Yeah.
cell phone, and it's nobody's fault. That's just the way it is.
Didn't
Wha-
cost $72,000, did it?
I just,
No.
I see that what y'all are doing right now, and what she's mentioned, is what should have been done a long time ago.
We tried to do it, remember? And I believe you may have said, I am not going. You sent an email. Oh, I thought you were talking about the retreat. Oh, yeah.
Things and, you know, and the plans and the this and that and all that.
I learned
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot.
I do remember.
You
Yeah,
did
I
say that.
How many times,
In these 3 months, I'm gonna be on, and y'all,
how
y'all
many times did I
you're gonna
bring
get a
that
sticker
up?
You
shock,
have
I
brought it
promise
up a
you.
million times.
Are we, just so we're clear on the
I'm just
agenda,
talking about what y'all are
We need
doing
to
right
do
now,
a
not the
public
Go ahead,
retreat.
Chuck.
It
So-
would've worked back then.
as it relates to the budget, we're gonna hold off on that
Till
for
next
now.
week, yes.
In terms of the public hearing, or do you wanna go ahead and?
I would prefer that the council have an opportunity to review the proposed budget at least until next Tuesday, and then we have our meeting next Tuesday.
Can we not revise it?
And I
Well,
do have a question about that.
I'm just
can
talking right
revise it to
now
10
about, they're both items
Yeah.
are on for a public hearing.
Yeah,
And-
so
and
we,
So-
my
is-
recommendation would be that we have a public hearing
Yes.
on
Go
both of
ahead
those
and,
items. And then
Yeah.
we will have met that requirement.
Yep.
If the mayor and council would like to have a second public hearing next week on both of those, that's completely
So-
permissible, but let's do these
one is
first ones.
required and we can get at
So
least
you wanna
one
do
behind
these
us.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we-
let's, well, all we have to.
this is a public hearing.
Well, I know,
That's what
but
I'm
we
saying.
need
We're
to
gonna do
open.
these
We
now.
need to officially open it for a public hearing, so if you guys are finished with your commentary, I will open it up for a public hearing, so. Okay, and we are going to do one at a time. At this time, we will go back to our resolution for city council to adopt a budget and, for the fiscal year 2026. So what I'm going to do now is open it up to the public. If you would like an opportunity to speak on, items pertaining to this budget, please come up to the microphone. New council? No?
Hearing none,
We can just close it.
Okay, and we've already had our opportunity, so,
Well,
this
I-
is just,
I-
this is,
I did have a question on something, though. I can't find, I mean.
What
Let-
I was
let's-
gonna suggest
yeah.
is let's go ahead and do the public hearing, so
then-
open
yeah.
and close it.
Yeah,
and then
let's
there's
close it
Further
first.
discussion.
Yep,
we can
yep.
have.
So if there is, if there's no one who wants to speak, we will close that portion of the public hearing for the 2026 budget. So at this time, I will also open up a public hearing for the millage rate that is set for 2026, and it has been advertised. Is there?
And Mayor, just to be clear, the proposed millage rate, I believe, is the rollback rate.
Yep.
Of 3.826.
Yep, and you all,
The
you all may have
title-
a,
The title is this, an ordinance to establish the ad valorem tax rate.
yeah, ad valorem.
There you go.
So you do have a handout with the digest and the millage rate rollback rate that is suggested. So at this time, we'll open it up for a public hearing. Does anyone have a comment? Okay, if not, we will close the public hearing in reference to the ad valorem tax for 2026 and open up for council. A couple of you had questions or comments.
Yeah, I had, since we're gonna be giving us a little bit the revenues in here, and I've on an expenditure, and I don't have a page here, but it's this one. And it's got the general fund expenditures by departments, and it's got the totals here, but then if you flip over, it's got it, you know, it categorizes out here, it's got, say, maybe, I don't know, legal, FICA, this is with the mayor and council, and then you got your elections, and then you got executive. I don't see, though, the public safety, police, the fire, the streets, the parks, and the zoning. I don't
Okay,
see.
if anything's missing from your packet, we'll email those to you in the morning.
Oh, okay,
Okay?
all right, okay.
I'll take a look at that.
Okay.
And I apologize if there is something missing, that's
Okay,
on me,
alright,
and I'll take
alright,
care of that in the
okay,
morning for you.
Okay, Dr. Whaley, do you have a comment?
No, I was gonna move for adjournment. Gonna be at the
Okay.
end of the-
So that will be, both of these, the second one, that is your first reading for the ordinance. These are, public hearings, so we will discuss the budget on the 12th, and then we will have our second reading for the ordinance for the ad valorem text on the 12th, so we will send you all official notice for that. Is there anything else pertaining to these topics for tonight? Anyone?
So on the 12th, though, you'll be going over the budget. I mean, and then
I'll
we'll
be happy
adopt it.
to. I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah,
happy to
and
go
then-
over
and then we'll adopt it.
Okay.
what I know, I'll be happy
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
yes.
Okay, if that is all, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Hey, one question, though. Would it be good, when, in the 12th meeting, if they have any questions or anything, y'all look over it, and y'all have questions?
Any of the elected
Mhm.
officials, newly elected or incumbents, anyone that would like to have a conversation with Rob and or myself about the budget proposal, will be happy to do that.
You could during the public hearing.
You can't, you,
I understand. Tacey, were you done?
She's done now.
Then I make a motion that we resign this meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.